Today is Thursday, the 17th of July, 2024. That is more than half of the first month in the last half of the year 2024. Today is rather 18, beg your pardon, and we're thanking God for life. We here at the Multimedia Group, we say that Christ is at work, and indeed. So I hope, it is my hope and prayer that everyone under the sound of my voice has something positive to wake up to. This morning on the AM show, from now to 10 a.m., we have a plethora of conversations coming your way, as well as news. Of course, Denisia Poma will be here to serve you the first news bulletin on the channel. And then we'll get into our news review segment. Bernard Mona of Arise Ghana and Afel Moni, former Ghana Journalists Association president, and Dr. Paul Greboachidankwa, government spokesperson on governance and security, will be joining us to get into the various stories captured in the newspapers. And then we'll bring you AM Sports, of course, chronicling all the latest from the world of sports. And then our big conversation starts. Today, we'll take you to the northeast region of East Mampusi, where a collapsed bridge is having dire consequences on their ability to access healthcare and education. The people there have a lot to say. And then we'll take a swipe at that latest Afrobarometer report that reveals growing dissatisfaction among the youth in Africa who feel left out in the democratic processes. How dangerous is this for Ghana and Africa? Referencing Kenya, we all saw what happened there. Lives were lost. Also, will the LGBTQ bill see the light of day as the Supreme Court defers ruling on the injunction application to hear the substantive matter? We will delve into that issue as well. All that coming up on the AM show, as well as AM Business. James Ashen is on the beat, and he'll tell us how Ghana is working to increase the cocoa yield. So join us with your comments and your thoughts across all social media platforms. We are Joy News on TV. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and of course I do this with Benjamin Akapo. Let's start with the AM News.
Hello, good morning and welcome aboard to the AM News. My name is Denisia Poma. Let's start from Parliament because the anti-LGBTQ bill will remain there for a while longer as the Supreme Court has deferred its ruling on an interlocutory application that aimed to prevent Parliament from transmitting the bill to the President. The two applicants, Richard Delaskai and Dr. Amanda Odoi, contend that the bill breaches some of the provisions of the Constitution and should not be transmitted to the President. The five-member Supreme Court panel chaired by Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu, in deferring its ruling, indicated it will give the decision in the injunction application and the substantive application together in an early trial. Head of our Legal Affairs Desk, Richard Kojonyako, has more in this report.
It was a huge day in court. The expectations of many was that they were going to hear whether the Supreme Court will grant the injunction application filed by journalist and lawyer Richard Delaskai and Dr. Amanda Odoi, a researcher with the University of Cape Coast. The two were seeking to bar Parliament from transmitting the anti-gay bill to the presidency for his accent or otherwise. But the Supreme Court says they are deferring their decision until the final determination of the substantive suit.
Substantive suit together, enabling this court to deliver a more informed, comprehensive, and just decision that accounts for all relevant circumstances and factors in this important matter. Such a unified approach will further provide context and clarity, and also afford a clearer understanding of the issues raised in this interlocutory matter and their impact on the main suit. Having therefore diligently analyzed all the material processes on the record in this instant application and listened to oral submissions by learned counsel for the parties, our decision is to reserve our verdict on the interlocutory application until the final determination of the substantive suit, at which point we will render a comprehensive judgment that addresses all aspects of the case, including the current application for injunction. In conclusion, the decision of this court on this application for an interlocutory injunction is hereby deferred to abide the outcome of the determination of the substantive suit.
Lawyer for Richard Delasky indicated that the injunction application still holds, and they are happy that that matter of course has been made, because they felt that some of the pleadings that found place in the injunction application were the same or similar to the pleadings in the substantive matter.
We say that invariably, indirectly, it is still restraining any party from doing anything contrary to the demands of the application. Can't do it insofar as this matter is pending, otherwise it will amount to contempt of court, to the best of our understanding of the law. When the court speaks about an early trial, in effect what it means is that it will speed up the process towards the determination of the matter, so that this whole issue of injunction before final determination will no longer take a center stage.
The Attorney General insists that once there is an injunction application pending and no determination has been made, Parliament cannot transmit this bill to the presidency.
Once that the court thinks can be better dealt with in a substantive action. And it's permissible for a court to do that. There's nothing unusual at all. The court actually referred to an existing rule on injunctions. And so I think that the court is fair in coming by that approach. I mean, if at this stage the process have not been transmitted, and there must be a reason for that. The reason is that there was this application for interlocutory injunction pending, and the court has still not disposed of the application for interlocutory injunction. The court said the determination of that application for interlocutory injunction should abide the determination of the main case, and for that matter, it is reserving its determination until the main action is heard. It tells you that the application for interlocutory injunction is still pending, has not been disposed of. And so I think that would be the proper course to take. I still have to follow my processes, and that would be the first point for me to take. So it's a matter of complying with the rules of court. I have to comply with the rules of court first before you think about an expeditious hearing. So the question of expeditious hearing of the main case does not arise at this stage until all processes have been filed and the parties are ready to move forward. You heard counsel for the first defendant even talking about an application for a consolidation that has to be made, and that has not been done. So I do not think that there's a need for us to consider the question.
From the Supreme Court, my name is Richard for Joy News.
And away from Parliament and the Supreme Court, the verdict of the latest Afrobarometer report has positioned Ghana among countries in Africa witnessing a significant and continuous dip in democratic scorecard. This trend has been attributable to the current economic crisis, corruption and mismanagement, which is breeding anger and dissatisfaction, especially among the active population. There's more in this report.
Africa's democratic progress has faced a major challenge. Since 2020, military interventions have ousted elected governments in 6 countries, while 3 presidents have bypassed constitutional term limits to secure third terms. Moreover, some leaders are subtly undermining democracy by consolidating power, weakening checks and balances, and intimidating political opponents. Afrobarometer, which has tracked African citizens' democratic aspirations and experiences for 25 years, reveals a troubling trend. According to Boniface Dulani, Director of Service at Afrobarometer, the growing discontent among youth regarding democratic governance does not augur well for the future of democracy in the sub-region.
It's true that the youth, I think, are more dissatisfied with the democracy, and they also are more inclined to support authoritarian forms of government, especially military rule. I think part of the problem here and the challenge, especially for the youth, is that when you also ask our respondents what are the most important things that they want the governments to be addressing, and unemployment is, I think, a big problem, and especially for the youth. So they are looking at alternative forms of government that can help to deliver on their needs, and especially on creation of jobs.
But Ghana has been positioned among countries in Africa that are witnessing a continuous dip in their democratic scorecards. Boniface Dulani recommends immediate pragmatic measures to avert any Kenyan-like situation in Ghana.
Well, of course, I mean, this is a very big continent, so as the report highlights, there are differences from country to country. Some of the countries like Ghana, we've seen a huge drop in satisfaction with democracy. And I think the reasons, as we know many of them, the economic situation in Ghana in recent years has not been particularly great. The youth have, as I've already said, like their colleagues elsewhere, are not happy with the amount of jobs that are being created. So,
barely 5 months to the general election, immediate past EC chairman Dr. Chifondo Kachali is advising the Electoral Commission of Ghana to purge itself of any suspicion in the conduct of the elections.
I think as election management body, it's always important to remember that credibility is very important. So everything you can do to ensure that you create a level of confidence in the stakeholders about the integrity of the processes that you're managing can never be underestimated. And one of the ways to do that really is just being transparent and open about everything you're doing. Sharing information, and people should be aware of what's going on and why things are happening a certain way, removes suspicion, because where there's too much suspicion, it gives rise to a lot of conspiracy theories. Where there's transparency and accountability, people have information to actually make informed decisions.
And collaborating with...
This Afrobarometer African Insights 2024 Democracy at Risk, the People's Perspective Report, is the first in what will be an annual series on high-priority topics to distill findings from data spanning more than a decade, including the latest round of nationally representative surveys in 39 countries, representing the views of more than 3/4 of the continent's population. For Joy News, Samuel Mbura, Accra.
Well, in an effort to boost health service delivery and expand accessibility, President Akufo-Addo has assured that 11 district hospitals and 1 polyclinic will be completed by end of year. Speaking at the commissioning of the Adanse Fomena Hospital in the Ashanti region, the president indicated that the projects form part of his agenda for transformation in the health sector. While indicating his commitment to establish hospitals for the newly created regions, the president underscored the need to complete various district hospitals alongside the Agenda 111 initiative. Nana Boachi-Yadom was there and filed this report.
President Akufo-Addo commissioned the 9-year-old Adanse Fomena Hospital, which was started by the John Mahama administration in 2015. The project, which was expected to be completed in 2017, was hit by some financial constraints. At the commissioning of the hospital, President Akufo-Addo indicated his government's commitment to completing stalled hospital projects. He says 11 district hospitals and 1 polyclinic are expected to be completed by the end of the year.
By the end of 2024, we'll also complete several significant projects, including the Urology and Nephrology Center of Excellence at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, the construction of 11 district hospitals and 1 polyclinic in the Ashanti, Eastern, Greater Accra, and Ahafu regions, and various treatment and holding centers. These efforts align with our commitment to achieving universal health coverage, guarantee improved and more efficient healthcare services for all Ghanaians. Furthermore, government's determination to improving our healthcare delivery system is evident in the Agenda 111 initiative, which is providing 101 standard 100-bed district hospitals with accommodation for doctors and nurses in districts without district hospitals.
According to President Akufo-Addo, the 6 newly created regions will have regional hospitals.
There's an average number of 120 workers on each construction site. And when completed, an average of 549 persons will be employed in a district hospital, 1,343 in a regional hospital, and 947 in each psychiatric hospital. This means that 67,635 people will be employed in the Agenda 111 hospitals. I urge the community to hold healthcare managers accountable for ensuring the facility's proper utilization and timely maintenance, which are vital for sustained healthcare provision. Community support and commitment to the facilities managers are indispensable. This project also includes a 2-year post-completion maintenance and training program. Therefore, I encourage the Ghana Health Service to collaborate closely with the contractor's maintenance team to ensure the hospital's effective upkeep.
Minister of Health Dr. Bernard Okuboy says 3,000 bed spaces are expected to be added to the already existing hospital bed spaces in the Ashanti region.
Sabronum also has a 40-bed facility which is completed and is about to be operationalized. Suame, Mr. President, has a 40-bed facility that will be operationalized very soon. Dobonso also has a 40-bed facility. Mr. President, I'm also excited to mention that the military hospital at Afari, which has 500 beds, 500-bed capacity, is also ongoing and by the grace of God will be commissioned and operationalized this year. By January 2025, where by the grace of God you'll be handing over power, Mr. President, the Ashanti region is expected to have about 2,000 beds added to their health infrastructure capacity. Mr. President, if you add those on Agenda 111 list for the Ashanti region, you are looking at close to 3,000 beds addition within an 8-year period. Mr. President, certainly history will remember you not only as the education president, but also as the health president.
Adansehine Opejakwatre Bwansra Afriye II pleaded with the government to complete roads leading to the newly commissioned hospital.
Hospital is na your problem ba konne se me ba to no yo kan sem bebere kire me na de di kai hia ye pa bokum wo wa na mo twa ne ti no ene se access road ye ni access road da eba hospital ha de eba no eba school nkwara ho school yo ha ye wo kwan na aya ase kwa no so aya ase ho no monfa kwa no meto ho na nyanyambia no se kwan we kura sia na ambulance ba na ankoye problem amaye.
For Joy News, Nana Boache Dankwa Yadom.
Well, from the Ashanti region, let me take you to the Upper West region, where the lack of infrastructure, particularly accommodation for essential medical staff, is affecting the quality of healthcare in the Wa West district. Now, many doctors often refuse postings to this deprived area due to inadequate housing. Recently, a doctor almost declined a posting, but thanks to the efforts of the MP, Superintendent retired Peter Lanchene Tobu, who renovated an old bungalow and furnished it for the doctor's use. Joy News' Upper West regional correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Wichao.
One of the major challenges faced by health authorities in the Upper West region is the refusal of critical medical staff, especially medical doctors, to accept postings to the region. The few that sometimes accept the postings later decline due to unavailability of decent accommodation for them. The Wa West district, for example, over the years had several medical doctors posted to the district, but turned down the offer because of lack of accommodation. Concerned about the health of the people, which he sees as one of his priorities since becoming a legislature, Superintendent retired Peter Lanchene Tubu decided to renovate and furnish an old abandoned bungalow that was constructed by the Wa West District Assembly, which was in deplorable state at a cost of 90,000 Ghana cedis.
When I got the information about the fact that we had a medical doctor posted to the facility, and we were likely to lose a doctor because accommodation was a problem, whatever it would take for me to support the district health directorate and support the district assembly for us to renovate this facility to keep this doctor here, I will. And that is exactly what I've done, and that is why we are here today.
Medical Superintendent of the hospital, Dr. Benjamin Amiyori, was grateful to the MP for the support to the hospital over the years. Wawa's District Chief Executive, Vade Dorothy, spoke of the commitment of the government to improve the health sector of the district.
Another activity that was undertaken by the Wawa's Member of Parliament, Superintendent Retired Peter Tubu, was at the Wawa's District Hospital, where he inspected the completion of the surgical male ward that was ripped off by a windstorm.
Superintendent Retired Peter Tubu also refurbished 9 old AG motorbikes of the Wawa's District Health Directorate to enable personnel to go for monitoring and other outreach programs. Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam, Wachao.
Well, the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has urged the police administration to develop modern strategies to boost their intelligence capabilities and enhance efficiency in preparation for the 2024 general election. In his address, he emphasized the critical role of a well-prepared and responsive police force in ensuring the safety and integrity of the electoral process.
Dr. Bawumia, who was speaking at the commissioning of a police shop at the CID headquarters Wednesday, said effective policing is required to achieve violence-free elections.
The Snatch Them Young Policing Initiative, which focuses on school children, among several other initiatives, have ensured a more responsive, accountable, and operationally effective policing institution. Once again, I wish to commend the IGP, the members of the Police Management Board, and all officers and men for executing these initiatives under the police transformation agenda. I would like to urge you to continue to do more, especially as the nation prepares to go into a general election come December 7th.
Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampari, says the police administration will go all out to ensure the 2024 election is peaceful before, during, and after the process. In what appears to be a reassuring statement, the IGP called on the civilian population to do their part to sustain the peace.
Be assured that we, the police, and the rest of the security agencies, working in concert under the National Election Security Task Force, will do our utmost best, working once again with all other stakeholders to ensure that this year's election will be peaceful and the country will continue to be seen as a trailblazer for the rest of the continent and beyond. So we want to organize, just do your part and be assured that there will be peace, because we will go all out to ensure that there is peace.
Interior Minister Henry Korte has also pledged to deliver on his mandate of sustaining the peace of the country. Speaking ahead of the commissioning of a police shop at the CID headquarters, the minister stated that very soon, anyone who makes a threatening statement on social media in relation to the upcoming elections will be prosecuted.
Oftentimes, we read in the papers, we watch videos, and we see people threatening on social medias. Very soon, and I repeat, very soon, under the False Publication Act, anybody who makes a threatening statement to incite violence before, during, and after the elections, we will make sure the law deals with the person and a court of competent jurisdiction will work.
Elections chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jean Mensah, has reiterated her commitment towards an open and transparent electoral process in the December polls. Two viral videos on social media appear to show women affiliated with the political party accusing the EC of registering voters and undertaking illegal transfer of votes. The EC has denied these claims, stating that the videos are misleading and false. During the presentation of the Democracy Cup to the EC by the leadership of Parliament, the chairperson of the Commission, Jean Mensah, assured of transparent elections and urged political leaders to accept the outcome of the polls.
Just like the football match, we serve as the midwives that birth the elections. We are the referees that conduct and that lay the election and the processes that lead to, the election day itself. And so as referees, we are committed to, ensuring that our activities from now in the lead up to the election and all our electoral processes are transparent, they are open, they are fair, and they are involve the collaboration of our key stakeholders, i.e. the political parties and the citizenry. So like the referee of the match this afternoon, we commit to ensuring transparency in all aspects of our work. Our activities are open, as I mentioned, right from the registration through to the declaration of elections. Everything is done in the full glare of the public. Nothing is hidden. And we will commit to this, to maintaining and ensuring that level of transparency across all aspects of our work. And so we also want to entreat and call upon the contestants of the election to accept the outcomes of the election. Surely there will be a winner and surely there will be losers. And so we all call on our contestants to accept the outcomes of the elections, because we undertake and we commit to ensuring that the elections are free, they are fair, they are credible, they are transparent.
Well, up next is Business Updates with Sweetie Abochi.
Now let's do some business stories. Economist Dr. Owusu Sarkodie is urging the Ghana Revenue Authority to provide data on sectors underperforming when it comes to the revenue mobilization. The Ghana Revenue Authority posted 68 billion Ghana cedis as part of its 2024 mid-year revenue target. And speaking to Joy Business, Dr. Owusu Sarkodie said despite recording such impressive figures, it's still important to determine the underperforming sectors in order to find measures to improve revenue mobilization from those sectors.
We have to disaggregate to know which of the sectors are growing faster and which ones are growing slowly, so that it will inform policymakers on which areas to actually emphasize more. Like you said, if it's from international trade, or it's from taxes, or from non-tax revenue, is it from royalties, is it from e-levy, or which angle is it coming from? So we have to disaggregate. So we need the data. They must provide us with the details so that we will interrogate it and plot the graph and know which areas are growing faster and which areas are growing slowly, so that policymakers can intervene to address whatever issue there is. But I think reading the report, they made mention of the fact that sometimes they have changed from enforcement to compliance, like, talking to the people, encouraging the people to pay and simplifying the tax system for the taxpayers. I think all these things are good, whether it's international trade tax or domestic trade tax. All these things are good. You have to simplify it and make the payments easy. It shouldn't cost the payer so much to pay tax. If it costs the person so much to pay tax, the person will not pay. If it takes more time, this person spends more time in paying, they will not pay. So let's leverage digitization. I've made this point, I'm making the point again, that government has spent so much on investing in digitization or digital infrastructure. It is time to leverage that for revenue collection, because digitization will remove the middlemen, interpersonal relations, and reduce corruption.
Now let's take a look at the currency market. And that's it for our business updates. Denise Yapomeje takes over again.
Thank you, Sweetie Abochi. That's it for AM News. But after this is the news review. We'll be joined by Bernard Mona of Arise Ghana, Afil Moni, former GJA president, and Dr. Paul Grave Boachidankwa, his government spokesperson on governance and security. My name is Denise Yapomeje. Enjoy the rest of the show and have a lovely day.
And welcome aboard the news review segment on the AM show. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and we did tell you this morning that we have 3 personalities joining us. But a quick reminder that this segment is always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and they're offering free prostate screening and free fertility screening at their various branches or locations. Here in Accra, you can find them on the Spintex Road opposite the Shell signboard, in Kumasi, Kronima Buenya, behind the Angel Educational Complex, in Takrady Anaji Estate, in Tema Community 22, in Esiama and Zima. In the course of the program, I'll bring you their call lines. But this morning, I have in the studio with me the former GJA president, Mr. Afel Moni, and Dr. Paul Grave Boachidankwa, who is government spokesperson on governance and security. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
You. Good morning.
Good morning. I hope you're feeling good.
Yes.
Okay.
The grace is sufficient.
Yes, it is. Here we say Christ at work. Multimedia group, we say Christ at work. And this morning, I'm just feeling very grateful to God. Nice. Okay, so you have a minute or two. I know we have an extended time, but let's try and keep our comments and submissions as brief as possible. So I'll start with you, Mr. Moni. You have your minute to get into whatever is on your mind this morning.
Permit me to momentarily skip the dizzying news cycle in Ghana and take a synoptic look at the assassination attempt against Trump.
Okay.
America has been teetering on the brink of self-destruction, and it took the grace of God to save them. The implications are just incalculable. Global insecurity and what have you. So thank God that at least there's a semblance of stability in the U.S.
Right.
And, you know, locally, we should also take a hard look at the protection cover we provide for the leading candidates in the upcoming elections.
Yeah.
Namely His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, former President John Dramani Mahama, Alain Chairman, and the rest. It will be preposterous on my part to suggest to the security agencies what they should do. But I'm inclined to believe that they will add a layer of protection to the 3 gentlemen, so that nothing untoward, nothing unthinkable happens to them. Otherwise, it may spell the doom of this nation.
Okay. Very interesting thoughts there, Mr. Moni. Yeah. We don't want to, you know, have a part 2 of whatever is happening in America.
No, not at all.
Absolutely agree with you. Beef up security for these gentlemen. Paul Grave. Dr. Paul Grave Boachidankwa, what's on your mind?
Well, Sweetie, good morning to you, and good morning to my senior brother, and good morning to your viewing public. You know, last week, something unfortunate happened. The research design director for Rolls-Royce and Cameron was also assassinated in his home in Germany, 74-year-old man.
Yeah.
He was a research director for Rolls-Royce from 1999 to 2012. And you are aware how I have very keen interest, particularly in Rolls-Royce and other vehicles that exhibit affluence and wealth and the innate nature of God's ability. And so I joined the family of Ian Cameron, who was assassinated in his home in Germany, and wished the entire Rolls-Royce fraternity the deepest condolence. And I'm certain that as investigations are ongoing, they'll be able to ravel this one-man assassin who went into his home and caused his untimely death. Really, really sad.
we can only be careful, but I think God protects us all. And I share your sympathies with the families of this gentleman. Right, I'll start with the daily graphic. I'll do the headlines, get into about 3 major stories, and then I'll come to you. And then we'll get into your stories, your papers as well. But let me announce to you that the daily graphic starting now. On the front page, Tertiary Business Schools Challenge launched. President nominates 2 to Supreme Court. YEA empowers 600,000 Ghanaians. President Akufo-Addo comments agency. GRA exceeds mid-year targets by 138.69 million Ghana cedis. Let's get into the paper now, and I'll start from page 3 on this story about YEA empowering 600,000 Ghanaians. It says the government has estimated that over 100,000 beneficiaries of the Youth Employment Agency have positively impacted the livelihood of over 500,000 individuals in the last 4 years. YEA was set up to, among other things, work towards reducing youth unemployment through skills development, monetary assistance, and setups to enable the youth to create employment for themselves and others. This number is impressive, but what is the current unemployment rate and underemployment rate? We'll get into that when I come to you for your submissions. And then UAE lifts 2022 visa ban on Nigerians. The United Arab Emirates have lifted that 21-month-long visa ban on Nigerians. And Nigeria's Information Minister Mohammed Idris said the UAE's decision to lift the ban that has been placed since October 2022 came after mutually beneficial negotiations between both governments. And that is on the international front. And there's an editorial here on the Snate Hotel saga. They said labor must be more dynamic. And last we heard of them, they were saying that, going forward, they're going to be more vocal about issues that concern them and the nation as a whole. Let me get into some other stories. GRA exceeds mid-year targets by 138.69 million Ghana cedis. And that's the Ghana Revenue Authority. They've collected 68 million Ghana cedis for the first 6 months of the year 2024, and it exceeds their mid-year targets by 138 million Ghana cedis. That's impressive. The amounts represent 0.2% excess collection by the authority on its mid-year targets, and this is coming in the wake of the dire need for revenue collection to close fiscal deficit gaps in line with the country's program under the International Monetary Fund. In other stories, we must maintain our justice and freedom. That is from some politics, according to John Dramani Mahama, the flag bearer of the NDC. And demographic transition, entrepreneurship, MSME development. This is a special feature on the perspective of how we are doing in terms of MSMEs. Let election results reflect people's will. That is according to Reverend Techi, and he's urging stakeholders to be circumspect, to be careful. Let me get into that story a bit, and then I'll introduce our third guest, and I'll take your submissions. The General Secretary of the Dispensation Gospel Mission Ghana, a Pentecostal denomination, Reverend Charles Techi, has urged stakeholders in the electoral process to play their part diligently to ensure that the results of the elections present the will of the people. He said this would ensure that the verdict is accepted by all parties. I'll end that there. On the back page, Kotoko defeats Hearts in thrilling showdown. That is on that Democracy Cup that was held yesterday. Alban Bagbin, the Speaker of Parliament, was handing over the trophy. There's a photo here of Alban Bagbin handing over the trophy to the captain of Asante Kotoko. That is Frederick Asari. And that is for Graphics Sports. You can pick the paper for yourself and get into these mini stories. What are your thoughts on these 4 stories? There's this YEA empowering 600,000 youth, GRA exceeding mid-year targets, and that ban in Nigeria lifted from the UAE, and some other headlines that I touched on. But before you come in, Bernard Mona joins us now, and he's with Arise Ghana. Bernard, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Are you okay?
I could have been better.
Okay.
Just that Palgrave took the words that I wanted to exalt you with this morning.
Okay.
And so
okay.
I was feeling jealous at the corner.
Don't be jealous.
But it's good to see Mr. President after a very long while. Very.
Okay. I'll come to you when you want to get into your submissions, then you add your 1-minute take on what's on your mind. But first, Palgrave, you have the floor.
Well, so, sweetie, I'm glad that the government of President Nana Dankwa Akufo is focusing a lot more on young people. And yesterday was a sight to behold, particularly in the Ashanti region, whilst we looked at the beneficiaries of some of the interventions from the youth employment agencies. And we continually commend the leadership and also commend President Nana Dankwa Akufo because the future of this country belongs to the young people. And so a government that is willing to be sustained over the long period of time must ensure that a focus on young people is key, and the development of young people is key. And so we are glad for this. And for GRA, I mean, clearly we have said that the economy has turned a corner. We have said that the economy has bounced back stronger. And I'm glad that GRA is exceeding a lot more of their targets. And it's clear about 38.6 million Ghana cedis, which is a lot more confidence in the Ghanaian local revenue mobilization. And we must commend the taxpayers for continually paying their taxes, because when you pay your taxes, you see that government will use your taxes for a lot more developmental works. And so we commend that. And all other issues that are happening within the sub-region, well, it's good, because it's good for the peace and serenity that we continue to enjoy within the sub-region. And I'm glad that the headlines have been able to focus very strongly on the interventions that the government is making on young people and also on the turnaround of the Ghanaian economy.
The current unemployment rate is 4.0% and it's flat from last year. It remained the same. And I'm sure you saw that report that says that a lot of Ghanaians are multidimensionally poor. Most of them don't have any source of income. They're not employed. So, yes, it's good that we haven't decreased, or it hasn't. The rate has not increased, but it can be better. Would you agree?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I don't doubt that. But one of the things that we must always look at is good products that are being churned out. And I've always been a proponent that government does more and governments must do more. And in President Nana Dankwa Akufo doing more is to ensure that you deepen a lot more of the policies that has been implemented and ensure that beneficiaries get the best of policies that are put in place. So I can agree with you, but I'm glad that at least the beneficiaries are commending what government is doing on the youth front and the plans that we continue to have to focus a lot more on youth interventions. And I'm certain that in successive years, these numbers will drop significantly.
Mr. Money.
600,000.
Yeah.
As many as 6,000 people.
Yeah. Youth
have been employed. I think this is a staggering figure in all respects, and I will join my brother to shower praises on the government for this huge achievement. But this does not obscure the fact that unemployment is a huge problem in this country. As you said, 7.3 million Ghanaians are multidimensionally poor. The unemployment rate is also very high, and as has been articulated time and again, this is a timing bomb. Anything can happen. The youth in particular are a preponderant force, either for good or for evil. So this is something we need to take a hard look at and ensure that as much as possible we absorb them, give them means of livelihood.
Yeah.
So that they're not be tempted to mischannel their energies to destabilize this country. GRA, yes. What men can do better. Mr. Osuamwa, Reverend Dr. Osuamwa laid a strong foundation. And it's heartwarming to observe that the lady has come to build on this foundation. GRA is of vital importance to the economic fortunes of this country.
Yeah.
And around this time, there are many outstretched hands, all demanding from the national kitty And there's a need to mobilize as much as we can in order to satisfy those demands. Otherwise, the picture will be unpalatable.
Okay.
So kudos to Madam Esiem. You have our maximum support. We continue to encourage you, whilst sharpening our eyes on how best to protect the public purse, even if it may sound political.
Well, I hope that this revenue mobilization is not affecting the ordinary Ghanaian and leaving those who actually should be contributing more, giving them some field day. We know that it's regular people like you and I who pay the most taxes, and there are businesses who find a way around it. You know, parliaments, there's that conversation about tax exemptions and all that. But it says good news if they've exceeded their own mid-year target. Yeah. So yeah, congratulations to the team. Yeah. Mr. Mona.
Well, good morning to you, Palgrave and President Alfred. Morning. Apologies for coming in late. First is the disturbance in Kenya.
Right.
As you are aware, just yesterday, protesters still demanding the resignation of President William Ruto.
Yeah.
One of them was killed. What it means is that it's not Uhuru in Kenya, as we all know. The threats of bad governance policy evolutions can undermine democracy. And all leaders are enjoined to listen and listen good to the cries of citizens.
Yeah.
And not to say that once you have been put in office, you are the alpha and omega, you can do what you like, and citizens will simply tolerate. The disturbances in Kenya, first, that led to the withdrawal of the financial bill. But the withdrawal left in its wake several deaths, and you cannot retrieve them. Families are destroyed. I'm also excited that the police and the security agencies are beginning to reason, because the youth decided to teach them a simple lesson, that you beat us on the streets, you will return home and your family is also well beaten. And so to that extent, the police have to know that you are dealing with citizens just as your own. And for me, I think that the African Union in particular must sit up to look at the issues in Kenya, not just fold these arms and think that things will settle the way it will.
Right.
That is my take on disturbances in Kenya. Now, I'm surprised that all of a sudden we are talking about 600,000 people with the National Youth Employment Agency.
Why are you surprised, Mr. Mona?
Just a few days ago, multidimensional poverty by the Ghana Statistical Service indicated that Ashanti region is the most hit. And just coming forward, we are also told that more than 1.9 million Ghanaian youth, ranging from 15 or 18 to 39, 35, are not employed. And all of a sudden you are telling us that 600,000 people are with the Ghana Youth Employment Agency. What are you trying to say?
Well, they say that
you are trying to rubbish.
The Youth Employment Agency has recruited some of these.
You are trying to rubbish the fact that the Ghana
various.
I'm saying that you are trying to rubbish what? Why are we talking about the Youth Employment Agency?
That's what they are doing.
No, what are you talking about? We should get full employment for them. You don't know the raison d'etre behind the formation of the Youth Employment Agency? That they should get temporary jobs that will transit them into better jobs.
And I'm saying it's better than none.
And we sat here and subjected ourselves to one of the transient policies of NAPCO. And we have in our hands a difficult situation where people have worked. Over 65,000 of them have not been paid for more than a year. And we are still dealing with the unemployment situation as if we don't care. Youth Employment Agency is not a panacea to permanent jobs for our young people. The establishment of this youth employment agency was to assist people to acquire basic skills, to get what we call experience, so they can get proper jobs. Over the years, people have actually retired on the youth employment agency. They work there and they retire there. From there, they don't get any jobs. It means that we've not been able to fashion a way, said that from that place they will get into the mainstream employment. Yet they are not paid as a full-time employer. So let's not be celebrating or gloating over things that we all know. If we put our children there, we will not be satisfied. So I am disturbed that coming at the time that the Statistical Service is telling us that there is endemic poverty amongst over 1.9 million young people, over 2 million people. At the time that multidimensional poverty is highest in the Ashanti region, we should be careful the kind of publications we put, as if we want to obliterate and invalidate the work of the Statistical Service.
No, we are not doing that.
It is not you.
What I'm asking.
I mean, it's not. Why? Would you leave Joy FM and go and be an employee under the youth employment agency? Why would I do that? Because you know that the income they earn there is nothing to take home.
Okay, what I'm saying to you is, out of that 2 million people who are unemployed, if they're saying that 600,000
these have been employed before.
Temporary.
No, these have been employed before the Statistical Service came out with its report. Before the Statistical Service came out with its report, these people were employed. So why are you bringing it now? Okay. It's to suggest that, look, the Statistical Service, please close down your chapter. Then, of course, on Ghana Revenue Authority.
Okay.
We should have been excited that they have mobilized so much, but I cannot be excited. When companies and businesses have been subjected to all manner of harassment that they have been complaining, so much that even the vice president and leader of the New Patriotic Party now had cause to complain that Ghana Revenue Authority was over demanding of businesses and leading to the collapse of businesses.
Yeah.
So if it is that kind of, what do we call it, bitter approach that led to this mobilization, then you know that some businesses are suffocating. There is no doubt that businesses are suffocating. Now, you come and tell us, in the face of the fact that you collected money and these businesses are collapsing. When businesses are collapsing, you know what that means? It means that you are...
money out of people's pockets.
Not only that, it means that jobs have been curtailed. It means that these companies are likely to run off. What they are simply doing is that they are managing themselves so that by the close of the year, most of them will fold up. If you go to the ports, nothing is working. I have insisted, time without number, that unless we look at the structure composition of our nation, we will not be able to overcome this deficit in revenue mobilization. Look, we owned assets that could generate revenue for us. Somehow, by our fickle minds, we decided that we would listen to some Bretton Woods institutions that come and sell Ghana Airways, sell Ghana Telecom, sell in Sawam Canary, sell this because it's not the business of government to do business. In wake of that, what they have allowed government to do is that government should keep expenditure outlets. Go to the Ghana Education Service, it's an expenditure outlet, not revenue generation outlet. Go to Ghana Health Services, it's an expenditure outlet, not revenue generating outlet. Go to the security services, it's expenditure. So why would somebody come and tell you that close all the inflow sources and keep the outflow sources? Okay. And you are wise enough to do so, then today you are squeezing and muzzling out businesses and telling us that you are increasing revenue mobilization.
Hold for me. Luckily for us, we have government spokesperson here. Paul Graham, these two issues that Bernard just raised, one on the challenges in the transition of the youth under this YAA program to actually gain employment, proper employments where they are paid their worth, and then squeezing the average taxpayer, some of them running out of business so that they can so that they can mobilize this money that they are saying they've exceeded their mid-year targets. How do you respond to those?
You know, for Bernard, who wants to become president, I think that it would have been good for him to really commend what government is doing. you spoke about the data of people that are unemployed.
Yes.
And the fact that it's been stable for about 2 years and counting.
Was the same figure 2023,
Yes,
the same figure now?
That's what you said,
yeah.
yes. There was the same figure in 2023 and it's the same figure now. You know, Sweetie, I'll tell you one truth. A number of these youth intervention initiatives are not necessarily a stopgap, but they are a continuum to ensure that people don't lay idle. That you use the skill, you enhance the skill, you give young people the opportunity, and young people can transition on. There is no government in this world that I have seen that doesn't focus on youth intervention programs and ensuring that they move young people from a state of unemployment to a state of unemployment. So if you look at the intervention...
His issue is that they've been there for a while.
No, but
it doesn't seem like they're going anywhere from that particular agency.
All the interventions of employment in terms of youth employment, from YAA to NYA to Ghana Enterprise Agencies to the entrepreneurship and all of those, are a model to ensure, because young people grow. Young people who are teens will grow into young adults. And so you can't say that the agency should be moved away. And these people who even work there continually are placed into various avenues of the Ghanaian economy. Beyond the people who are administrators at the various YEA offices and NYA and NEIP, those who are beneficiaries move on. Because the goal is to equip them so you can move them on and bring another batch of people and equip them and move them on. I mean, if you look at the stories that are here, one of the things that the YEA CEO stated were that because of the equipping nature of these young adults, the security services should endeavor to be able to take advantage of their services. You recall in recent years when we recruited a lot of these traffic people. You remember them? They were standing at every... Those were pre-preparation into avenues where they can enhance their own potentials and skills. And so I don't know why one who wants to deserve to become president is not even considering how we are raising revenue, because internal revenue mobilization is key.
What about squeezing the ordinary Ghanaian for their little pennies and running some of them down and out of business so that you can mobilize revenue? If you live in America or you live in the United Kingdom or you live anywhere in the world, Asia, taxpayers' money is what is used to develop the economy. No doubt. No, but that's not the argument.
Yes, no, but you need to be able to raise revenue.
Correct that one.
No, but you need to raise
revenue.
It's not tax revenue.
It's revenue.
It's revenue, but not tax revenue.
Okay.
So correct that.
I see what you did there, yeah.
You raise revenue.
Yeah.
Revenue is key. I mean, it's key from various sectors. So if the Ghanaian economy is ensuring that people are raising revenue, we are making sure that people's revenues are coming into the government basket. We must encourage that.
We are talking specifically about taxes.
No, but then, I mean, so you don't want people to pay taxes?
I want people to pay
taxes.
I want everyone to pay taxes.
No. Responsible taxpayers.
I want people like you who have private businesses. It's not about you. It's about the big companies that have tax exemptions. That, you know, it's at the detriment of the ordinary Ghanaian.
I think those conversations have been reviewed.
They're being reviewed.
They're being reviewed.
We are waiting for the results.
Tax exemptions.
Someone, do you want to weigh in before we go to another paper?
I think the review should be tackled with urgent promptitude, because it's been a waste pipe. If you look at tax exemptions granted to people who are politically connected, this has been an avenue for stealing from the state, because this is a country which is in dire need of so many things. Workers are demanding their due, roads are crying for repairs, and what have you. Our needs are legion as a nation. And so anything which will help us to help address those pressing issues, you know, should be tackled with urgent promptitude. So I believe, as my brother said, they are taking a look at this issue of leakage. And I believe...
leakage. Something just came to mind. This SML GRA deal, and, you know, someone who's been employed to help mobilize revenue has actually been, you know, not paying taxes to the government. Anyway, let's get into other stories because our time won't allow us.
But it will not be proper to allow Palgrave to run rough on me. And
I'll come back to you. Let me get other stories. I'll come back to you. Okay.
On this story, I must respond.
You have like 30 seconds.
Clearly, wanting to become president means that we should put a government that is failing us on its toes. And when you have a government that has shown gross incapacity in handling things, you don't come to sit here and give them praises. What are you talking about here? That many young people over the past 10 years or 15 have been subjected to a youth employment traineeship jobs and have not been able to gain any job. You are excited about it? Go and join that scheme and see whether you will be excited sitting here. That is one. Yeah. Number two, it is not true that tax revenue is what has lift nations. In fact, taxes are for varied purposes. One is maybe to encourage and promote local production of certain goods. One is to ensure the importation of certain brands of goods. And so taxes are used largely for correctional purposes, in addition to its revenue function. And so governments that are wise will explore other ways of raising revenue, because there is a popular cliche that says that no nation has taxed itself to prosperity. You are sitting here wanting to tax our nation to prosperity, not knowing that in doing so you are collapsing and muscling out the businesses.
Okay, thank you for that. The New Finder newspaper now. On the front page, GRA bags 68 billion Ghana cedis in 6 months. That's the same story that we were just dissecting there. President comments YEA promises to enhance its appeal. Ghana Publishing opens first regional office in Kumasi, and President of COP Yohuno as Deputy IGP, 120-bed state-of-the-art Fomena and Kumewu hospitals commissioned. Let's get into the story about the appointment of a Deputy IGP in charge of operations and the concerns that people have been raising. I mean, just yesterday that the announcement came, and I learned it came up in a meeting, is it a council meeting or so yesterday, and that why do we have a Deputy IGP in charge, specifically in charge of operations, when we already have an IGP? What do you make of it, Mr. Mona?
Sorry, the position of Deputy IGP has been in existence for time immemorial. And COP Yohuno has been active in this capacity. He's been in the forefront in tackling critical security issues. You know, he's proved his mettle as somebody who, as I said, he's strategically positioned himself for this position. And I don't think anybody should raise eyebrows over his elevation. He thoroughly deserved this.
So there's no question about his elevation?
There's no question about his elevation.
So what is the question about? The specification of in charge of operations? Or that's also...
That's to place emphasis on
what he's going to do.
No, there are so many issues which are begging for redress, and they know the security architecture and what emphasis should be placed on operations. And I believe who are we to question the emphasis they place on operations? So we may have no qualms about creating a new position to specifically look at operations.
Bernard Mona.
Well, I think that
new appointment sits with you.
COP Yohuno is a distinguished police officer.
Yes.
Except that they have had cause to beat me unjustly for resisting oppressors' rule. Mr. President, but you know that unjustly they have beaten me.
It's an operational hazard.
And then they've thrown tear gas on me. They have thrown dust on me. You know dust. They hang helicopter and just smoke us with dust and what have you. Beyond that, I think that he's a distinguished policeman. I also know that he has served as the Director General of Administration at the Ghana Police Headquarters. And he has served in many capacities as regional commander and other operation fields. His competences cannot be underestimated.
Right.
And knowing that in most instances when Dampare is not available at certain important events, including protests that are of high tension nature, it is COP Yohuno that normally will come to camp the situation. And I recall that on the 28th of February 2022, just here, no, not February, 28th of June, he was the one in charge, but the demonstrations went bad. Eventually, they came up the next day stronger to ensure that the protesters were accorded the necessary protection that will lead to the protest. I've had cause to congratulate him on his elevation, but I also assured him to keep soaring higher, that when I become president in 2025, he is in contention for the IGP position, because I think that he's a distinguished man, despite that there are instances that they have run very terribly on us.
Palgrave, why now?
Why not now?
Why now? You are government spokesperson on security and
very
government. Why
clearly,
now?
Everyone on the panel.
Why 5 months to elections?
Very clearly, everyone on the panel agrees that COP Yohonu's elevation is right. And with all the issues that are happening around the world, with all the issues that are happening within the sub-region of West Africa, with ensuring that we protect Ghana as a beacon of hope and peace sustainably over the long period of time. I think that his elevation is one of the best decisions as well.
No doubt. But why now?
That president has made. I mean, Adam said, why not now?
You tell me.
No, that's what I said.
Now?
Yes, why not now? I mean, because we're in a very heated contest, okay? And I place that in the sub-region. We have turmoil in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Niger, a number of influxes of terrorism. There are governments that are being overthrown. There are military juntas, and so we must ensure that we have our men on the ground.
So this is merely beefing up our security?
Absolutely, and ensuring that we have our men on the ground and our ears are on the ground, and our borders are protected, and internal security is also protected.
Let's do some other stories. I'll just do quick headlines and I'll come to you, Palgrave, for your paper. Disruption in check-in systems at KIA due to fiber optic system failure. That is according to the Ghana Airports Company Limited. President comments YEA. We've delved into that story already. Dr. Baumia urges petroleum sector players to capitalize on the African Continental Free Trade Area opportunities. A new report indicates growing support for military interventions in Africa. I'll get into this briefly and then I'll come to you. A new report by Afrobarometer reveals that while Africa's youth share similar levels of support for democracy as their elders, they exhibit a greater willingness to tolerate military intervention when elected leaders abuse power. And the findings were presented at the Afrobarometer's inaugural flagship event in Accra on Wednesday. And the report, based on surveys conducted in 30 countries over the past decade, highlights a troubling decline in opposition to military rule and overall satisfaction with democracy. So first, the youth are saying that maybe democracy is not what we really need, because it looks like the saying goes, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Our leaders seem to be drinking a lot from the well of power, and they're not paying attention to the cries of the populace. And we saw that turn around because organized labor decided that they're going to speak up and, threaten the government with this never-seen-before industrial action. So what do you make of it, Mr. Mona?
Well, what I can say...
Youth, aligning with military intervention as compared to democracy.
What is democracy supposed to do?
You tell me.
It's supposed to give people the opportunities and to assure them that their voices and their votes matter. But when democracy turns out that it is the votes that matter, but our voices don't matter, then it means that democracy has lost the script. And in many instances, it is that we are urged to come out and vote. In fact, for us, democracy is about elections, nothing more. But after the elections is the manifestation of the expectations of the people. What do we expect when we cast a vote? We expect that we will have water. We expect that our tax level will be manageable. We expect that we will get jobs. And this is what I say for those who understand basic economics. We have a basic consumption function that tells you that this consumption C must be equal to A plus BY, where A is independent of whether you have income or not.
Okay.
But B is dependent on the income. So where income is zero, it means that B will cease to exist, right? But the A that is independent of income means that you must educate, you must have health care, you must have shelter, you must feed. You understand? You don't have them. And that is why when you go to the Scandinavian countries, they have chosen that they will manifest basic economic functions. That look, whether you work or not, whether the state is able to assist you to get a job or not, it is the duty of the state to ensure that at least you get to eat. Because they know that when people don't get to eat and they are hungry, they become a threat unto themselves and to others. And so we go out there to vote. And then when we finish voting, the rest of the things that the people that we have voted for should do, they actually speak to us with such vulgarity. You know, and that is why President Achampong once said that the issue of one man, one vote must be equal to the issue of one man, one bread.
All right.
Because if people don't get to eat, then democracy is irrelevant. And that is how come that people have voted and voted for 32 years, and it appears that we have toyed with their votes. So now they are aligning other ways, and that should be our worry now. Just the example, when the statistical service tells you that 1.9 million people have not gotten jobs, you just get up and come and tell us that you have employed 600,000 people.
Mr. Wani, Professor Bafo Ajimanjia was saying that democracy in Africa here is not a problem, but the problem is that it's been corrupted politically. So is that what the youth are protesting against? Is it that the political corruption that's affecting the kind of democracy we practice here in Africa? Is that what African youth are saying, that, okay, if that's what we're getting, then we would prefer to go to autocracy or military intervention? What do you think?
It is evident beyond contradiction that democratic decay has taken over democratic ascendancy in so many African countries. And so decay gives rise to democratic distemper, where the youth will take the law into their own hands and it openly embrace military takeover. So this is happening in the Sahel state, and this should serve as a fountain of lessons to Ghana and other countries.
Okay.
Yeah, the symptoms are rife. We see them. All of us will testify that monocracy has taken over the will of the people. Now its ability to pay, which will determine who goes to parliament or who ascends the highest office in the land.
Okay.
These are all symptoms of democratic decay, and we should address them. A special prosecutor has come out with some measures to ensure that the will of the people is not hijacked by people who do not deserve it. But I wonder what dent they can make in the system, because so it is rotten to the core.
It is rotten to the core. Let me throw that to Paul Craig. Dr. Bachi Dankwa, quickly, and then we have to wrap up.
Democracy is key. I believe in democracy. I believe in rights leaders. I believe in people having an opportunity to exercise their democratic franchise. I share in the view of former president of GJA, who, I mean, democracy doesn't need to go to the dogs, really. We need to ensure that the value-driven proposition that democracy must bring to the continual development of various countries must come to bear. And so, and which is why you recall when yesterday the parliament had to play the football, it was a democratic cup, you know, and to enhance and deepen our trust in democracy.
Does that really?
No, I mean,
influence the democracy.
He is speaking this way because I hadn't won my
I'm just curious. This is pure curiosity. That's game, that match, Democracy Cup, in any way influence the what Mr. Money just described as rotten to the core in terms of our democracy?
It's part of enhancing the processes of democracy.
How?
Parliament has been in existence of this Fourth Republic. We have
Parliament should have played with the judiciary.
We have enjoyed a lot more decorum within the various minority and majority and the various sittings in Parliament.
Sitting together.
If they are celebrating the successive parliamentary roles over the years by crowning it with a democracy cup. I mean, I think that it continually enhances what we do in the country. But democracy is key, and it's important that democracy doesn't go to the dogs.
I thought we were going to 7:30, but we have to wrap up. So I'll take your headlines quickly, and then we can go.
What the Ghanaian Times says, front page, government steps up youth employment agenda as it plans to support security services to absorb beneficiaries. Supreme Court defies ruling on anti-gay bill injunction until judgment on substantive case. Professor Nyako, the Deputy Minister for Education, is talking about the regulatory use of honorary titles, honorary doctorate titles. GRA has exceeded Africa Union.
Those stories,
Africa Union Media Coordination Meeting is happening in Ghana, and so there are lots of heads of states that are here. There are a few more stories that I picked up, which I'll just read the headlines for people to note. So, New Fadama, Sisala Community and Skins Chief. On and on and on and on. Maybe let me just go to the back page. Fire Service, fires prank calls.
Oh, yes.
Which is by the Fire Chief, Mr. Julius Kuno.
That's a disturbing phenomenon, prank calls. We had COP Alex Mensa telling us that people even called to tell them that my wife... Anyway, Mr. Felmoni, what paper do you have and what are the headlines?
Daily Guide, GRA, which we have dealt with extensively. Estor was extradited to U.S. for bribery. Lands Ministry exposes Ablakwa over sale of state lands, and Ablakwa has responded. Supreme Court defers decision on anti-LGBTQ bill injunctions. Professor Yanka takes on Sami Jemfi. And VIP commends IGP for police transformation, and I will seize the opportunity to also sprinkle a stardust of commendation on IGP for being an agent of transformation. People have their opinions about him, but those opinions do not obscure the fact that he's been an agent of transformation.
My headlines is Glyco 2024.
Right. Gentlemen, we do have to go. My guest in the studio with me this morning, Dr. Paul Dankwa, government spokesperson on security and governance, Mr. Afel Moni, former GJA president, and Bernard Mona, member of Arise Ghana. Thank you so much. Aspiring president. Aspiring president of Ghana. Thank you so much.
President of Ghana.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. A gentle reminder before we go that this segment is always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and they're offering free prostate screening and free female fertility screening at the various locations. Here in Accra, you can find them on the Spintex Road, opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronuma Buenya, behind the Angel Educational Complex. In Takrady Anaji Estate. In Tema, Community 22, in Techima and Hansua, in Esiama, in Zima. And here are their call lines, 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoints Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Bringing us to the end of the news review segment, and sports is up next. Do stay.
Time for sports on the AM show with me, Haruna Mubarak. We start with the members of parliament, this time not in the House but on the pitch. The parliamentarians defeated Black Stars Legends 3-1 in a friendly match before the super clash between Asante Kotoko and Hearts of Oak. My colleague Kwame Benaya has more in this report.
So the game between the Parliament of Ghana and the Legends of the Black Stars served as a curtain raiser ahead of the blockbuster between Accra Hearts of Oak and Kumasi Asante Kotoko in celebration of the Democracy Cup. With hundreds of people in attendance, the Parliament of Ghana team showed that they are just not good at wearing suits and ties in Parliament, but are also good at displaying their skills on the field.
It was the Parliament of Ghana team that took the lead after 45 minutes of action, with MP for Boase East, Honorable Patrick Yado, finishing off a fantastic move to put his side 1-0 up. The Women's Caucus of Parliament and the female staff of Parliament both entered the pitch during halftime to also entertain the crowd in an exhibition match. As the second half began, the Black Stars legends struggled to find a breakthrough until former Inter Milan midfielder Sule Muntari scored a fantastic free kick to make it 1-1. Hamza Ibrahim, who caused a lot of problems for Black Stars legends, scored 2 goals for the Parliament of Ghana, making it 3-1 to secure the win. Parliament of Ghana coach Ibrahim Ni Sankansa and his assistant Kofi Donago spoke to Joy Sports.
I'll give thanks to Almighty Allah and also the Mr. Speaker and the MPs. They comport themselves with discipline, and I would say that for the sake of Allah, we have won the game. This is not our first game. We went to Bolga and it was draw and penalties, and they beat us. And we came to Koforia, we won 2-1, and today we have won 3-2. So, and in bad, we've been playing these matches some years back. We have played against British House of Commons before. We scored them here. They came all the way from Britain. Scored them. We have played against Benin Parliament. And also, maybe end of this year, we'll go to Kenya, the Kenyan Parliament. But before that, we'll go to Benin. And they will also come here. So that's what is in the pipeline.
This team, it's one of the best teams in this country. Of course, people think that in Parliament we're enacting laws representing people alone. But I'm telling you, it's going beyond that. My coach is here, and the whole issue has to do with the technical team. We've been able to beat the legend. That should tell you that we've done very well. And as a Parliament team, we didn't take it for granted at all. We trained for 2 weeks consecutively. And training is a thing. Training is a thing. And I think that when they come back, we'll beat them and beat them, beat them again. So for me, I think that what we need to do next is to train more so that we can build our stamina. And I know that even whether Hasselfolk or Kotoko, we're going to beat them.
Vice President of the Ghana Football Association, Mark Adu, also shared his thoughts with what he witnessed.
Football is a language spoken across the world that brings everybody together. So obviously, by Parliament leveraging this to bring people together, it's something good that the whole country should celebrate. I think, if anything, 30 years of democracy is nothing to sneeze at, and then it's almost a testament to the people of the country and the leadership. I think more importantly, democracy should go beyond the same freedom that we enjoy politically in terms of freedom of speech. We should then try and deepen it further into sports, into our environment, so that I have a cleaner environment, and more, financial security, or providing more access to opportunities for everybody. The same way we take our freedom, we should take. It's up to leadership to also deepen it into other areas so that everybody can benefit, just like football brings everybody together. So I think it's a good, right thing to do.
Well, just maybe the MPs should start signing for clubs. Let's see how they perform. Now, in the Super Clash, Asante Kotoko won the maiden edition of the Democracy Cup, recording a 2-1 win over Hearts of Oak. This marks 3 successive victories for Kotoko over Hearts in their last 3 meetings.
The game was an opportunity for either Accra Hearts of Oak or Kumasi Asante Kotoko to walk home with a trophy after ending last season trophyless. It was Kotoko who stamped the authority first after Justice Blay gave the Porcupines the lead in the 30th minute through a penalty. Accra Hearts of Oak responded in the second half in the 50th minute. After 12 minutes of getting the equalizer, Kotoko's Peter Minu Aqua scored to make it 2-1 for the Porcupines, capitalizing on a mistake at the back by Hearts of Oak in the 62nd minute. The result was enough to see Asante Kotoko clinch the first edition of the Democracy Cup. Former Black Stars player Ajman Bedu was impressed with what he saw on the field and urged both teams to build on their performance for next season.
For the past 2 years, I can say this is the first time I think I have witnessed a great game against Hearts and Kotoko. The ball was on the ground, interpositional changing, good possession, composure, and it was very nice. I think both of them can build on this and have a formidable squad because we need them. We need them. And this is the club that can lure supporters and to bring attention on the league. So if they are playing well and we are doing a good recruitment like this, I think it was very good. Kotoko played so well in the first half, so well. Hearts of Oak came in second half and they lost control and Kotoko took control again and won the game. It's just a cup, although it's very painful, but I think both teams can build on this so that this year the league can be very exciting.
The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, crowned the ninth by thanking everyone who made the 2024 Democracy Cup a success.
I want to end up by thanking our technical people. The technical people, the referee, the assistants, and more importantly, the technical team that trained the coaches, not the coaches themselves. I know there's a team that is training the coaches, and the coaches, I watched them, and the instructions they were giving to the players. Well done. The sports authorities, we have our masters here. They have made it possible for all of us to be here. I want to salute your efforts.
By virtue of winning the 2024 Democracy Cup, Asante Kotoko will play MLS side DC United in a special tournament in the United States of America later this year.
Yeah, good news for Kotoko. For Hearts, they have less than 2 months to fix their problems as the Ghana FA has announced the date for the start of next season's Premier League. The competition will begin on September 6, 82 days after the 2023-24 campaign concluded. Samatex are the reigning champions after beating challengers Accra Lions to the title. They will aim to defend the trophy against the 17 other clubs in the league. Young Apostles, Basake Holy Stars and Vision FC are the newly promoted sides following the relegation of Great Olympics, Bofakatano and Real Tamale United. Now, Premier League clubs as well as those in the lower divisions have an opportunity to improve the value of their players on the transfer markets. This follows the unveiling of the football app Soccer Locker in an attempt to enhance the marketability of players. There's more in this report. It appears the hassle for data on home-based players is over following the unveiling of this app, Soccer Locker. The app is applicable to both males and females from age 8 onwards. Players available on the platform will have their statistics, profiles, and general information, including real-time starting lineups showcased to the outside world. This aims to enhance their value and aid transfers.
Yesterday, I was talking to a colleague who works in Saudi Arabia for one of the clubs. They have lost a player who is from Montenegro, and they want to replace that player with almost the same profile. The attacking ability, the area prowess, the field dominance, his recoveries, the fact that his heat map in a game should be not less than 98. And they were looking across the globe for a player of such profile. Unfortunately, he said, I can't think of Ghana because you haven't shown or, prove enough to give us data and statistics and video evidence on players who ply their trade in any of your domestic leagues. What it means is that, yes, we have infrastructure deficit. I hope it improves as we go along. But majority of our clubs have not also seen the need to invest in platforms like this. So I think Soka Loka is here to solve a very, very, important and very huge role that has been left in our industry.
Oh, the benefits abound. So, firstly, all the clubs, they have their own individual consoles, so they can organize the internal affairs of the clubs better. They can communicate with their players better. So imagine that if a club wanted to communicate with its players, either they bring them in for a meeting or they call them up individually. But through Soka Loka, one message to all the players. Not just that, the club can also track the progress of its own core group of players, and then when it's time for selling players, the club can easily list the players they want to sell on the marketplace. So the benefit, the whole point is that we want clubs to be able to make money from the passion that they have for football.
The app, which also permits uploading videos of players, is available for download.
Players access Soka Loka by downloading the app. It's available on Android and iOS. Clubs have a web console that they have access to because, like I explained before, they have to manage all aspects of their club. So it's not just the footballers, it could also be logistics, administration, and also they manage the matches.
Now, Man United seems to be busy in the transfer window. They are close to signing Lille defender Lenny Yoro after a deal worth over £50 million was agreed. The 18-year-old completed a medical in England yesterday and is expected to finalize the details of his contract today with a formal announcement of his move to follow. Yoro will sign a 5-year contract with an option of a further 12 months. Yoro wanted Real Madrid, but it seems the Spanish champions are focusing on other matters. They have extended the contract of captain Luka Modric on a year deal. The 38-year-old has won 26 trophies, including 6 Champions League titles and 4 domestic trophies since joining Real Madrid from Spurs in 2012. The 2018 Ballon d'Or winner has featured in 534 matches for Los Blancos, scoring 39 goals. And that's how we end the sports segment on the AM show. My name is Haruna Mubarak. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back to the program. It's still the AM show with me, Sweetie Aboch, and of course, Mr. Akakpo joins us in the studio. Hi, Akakpo. Hi, Mr. Akakpo. It sounds weird calling you Mr. Akakpo.
I know what it's like. We'll be getting into our next conversation shortly, but let me tell you a bit about Dan's World Services. If you're stressed out in respect of your cleaning needs, worry no more. Dan's World Services is your one-stop shop that meets all your commercial and residential cleaning needs, from pest control, janitorial and house cleaning services, event cleaning and waste management, carpet and sofa cleaning as well. So whether you're at home or at work, we understand and know how haptic cleaning can be coupled with your busy lifestyle. We've got great news for you. Dan's World Environmental and Facility Management Services has got you completely covered. We excel in whatever we do, leaving you beyond your wildest expectations. Locate us at Excel House opposite Regimanuel Estate, Nungwa Barrier, or call us on these numbers: 0302 905 538 or 0555 752 361. Dan's World Services, beyond expectation.
And here's another important information you should take note of. Now, under the distinguished patronage of Her Ladyship Justice Gertrude Tokono, Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, the UPSA Law School proudly presents the 2024 Lifetime Achievement in Law Award and Honorific Lecture. The event presents a rare but high-level opportunity to recognize and acknowledge the outstanding and exemplary contributions of notable Ghanaian personalities in the areas of the rule of law, governance, and the legal academy. And this year's Lifetime Achievement in Law Award will be conferred on Nana Dr. SKB Asante, that's the Paramount Chief of Asante Asokore and former Director of United Nations Center on Transnational Corporations and the Chairman of the Committee of Experts, which drafted the 1992 Constitution of Ghana at an august ceremony befitting the aura of the occasion. And this event comes off on Thursday, 25th July 2024 at 5 p.m. at the Kofi Ohene Konedu Auditorium at the UPSA. Now, please visit the social media platforms of the UPSA Law School or call them on 0245 347 946 for more information. And that brings us to the start of this bit of the conversation. Benjamin?
Well, we delve into the latest Afrobarometer perspectives when it comes to democracy and even the level of aversion to military incursions into democratic practice. It makes for interesting reading, and we're going to delve into some of the salient facts with our guests, whom we shall announce shortly. But let's look at some of what has been revealed by this latest Afrobarometer survey. If you look at the preference for democracy, you would see that there's a decline there. And if you look at it, you would see that from 82% in 2011, 2013, thereabouts. If you look at that 10-year denominator, you would look at a shrinkage of about 6 percentage points. And in 2021, 2023, it has declined to 76%. That is the stark reality. But let's move from there and also consider other aspects of the survey. Then you look at the rejection of military rule, like I said, a sharp decline. In the years between 2011 and 2013, we were looking at 86% saying that military rule had no place in our governance systems. But in 2021 to 2023, between that bracket, you have a decline of 18 percentage points, so that now we are looking at 68%. That tells a very sad story. It means then that what has happened in Mali, in Guinea, in Burkina Faso, in Niger has some sort of support, which should be worrying for our leaders and for all of us. Then you take another look at the satisfaction with democracy, and you would realize that there too, there has been a sharp decline, in fact, sharper than the other two, a 23 percentage point drop from 74% between the 2011-2013 window to 51% between 2021 and 2023. And that means that currently it could even be lower. It could even be lower. It tells you that in the sub-region and in Ghana, satisfaction with democracy is on the decline. But the question then is, should the military intervene in politics? Those who were sampled, those who spoke, those who were neutral to this were 5%. Those who said there should never, under no circumstances, be an intervention, 55%. But shockingly, those who say there can be an intervention if leaders abuse power, 40% are saying that. 40%. And that should concern all of us. It's a big cause for worry. These are some of the latest dynamics from the Afrobarometer survey. Now, when the question was asked about whether the country was going in the right direction, of course, Ghana, only 11% said yes, the country was headed in the right direction. Those who were neutral, 2%. Those who say no, the country is going in a wrong direction, 87%. A whopping 87%. If you add the yeses and the neutrals, you get 13%. Right? The yeses and the neutrals, you get 13%. And those who are saying, no, the country is not headed in the right direction, 87%. Almost 90%, almost 9 in every 10 are saying the country is headed in a wrong direction. And that is the tale of the tape. Those are some of the facts and the figures from the latest Afrobarometer survey. Of course, it makes for very uncomfortable reading throughout this entire, period. And that is the survey that was put together by the Afrobarometer. We'll be getting into the details of same and highlighting some of those very salient dynamics that has been shared with you. I'm talking about the Democracy in Africa statistics and the survey that has been conducted by the Afrobarometer in this latest survey. Now let's go ahead and look at our guests who are joining us this morning as we get into the issues. We have from the Economic Fighters League, Ernesto Yeboah. He is the fighter general, Ernesto Yeboah. He joins the conversation. We have Dr. John Osai Kwapong, and it is crucial we have him on this conversation because he is a CDD fellow, and you know that in Ghana, Afrobarometer, CDD, they actually put this out. Also in the studio to give us some more scope, whether legally and governance-wise, Kweku Painso, he's a lawyer. He joins the conversation as well. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Let me start with Mr. Painso. And Tensi, you don't usually come into the studio. We are privileged to have you here this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
You're looking spiffy.
Thank you very much.
All right. And we also have Dr. Osai Kwapong. I saw you. A very good morning to you.
Good morning to you too, Benjamin.
All right. Let's try for Ernesto Yeboah. Do we have Ernesto yet?
Yeah, it's V-mate.
Sharp. You have to bring the V-mate on there. Anyway, so gentlemen, it's really good to have you. Let's start with Dr. John Osai Kwapong. You work with the CDD, so I want to throw this at you first. You've seen the declines in opting for democracy and the increments in support for military interventions. Not that it's a good thing, but the question is, why are the people leaning in this area? There are so many dynamics, but for you, this broad Afrobarometer survey, not just Ghana, but beyond, what does it reveal to you as a citizen?
Thank you very much. So I have been saying that there comes a point where citizens begin to look at what I've been calling the dividends of democracy. So, and I've been making reference to a piece in the Journal of Democracy that was published. This is as far back as 2009. But for me, it's been one of the most seminal pieces on the subject of the aftermath of all the transitions to democracy that we saw post the 1990 era. And one of the things the author said was that democracy is good, but a day is going to come where citizens are going to start asking what they are getting from democracy beyond the basic freedoms that democracy guarantees. And his concern was that when that day comes, if democracy is not able to show that citizens are getting more than just those basic cherished freedoms, the legitimacy that democracy enjoys in relationship to other forms of government may be questioned. Citizens may start asking, why democracy? What are we getting from democracy? Because they want a broad balance sheet that convinces them that this is still the way to go. And I think that explains why you're seeing some of that decline in, in support for democracy. Yes, in some countries, the levels, it's still good enough. So a place like Ghana, which has mainly been my focus of work, in the most recent AB in 2022, 76% still say democracy is preferred to any other form of government. It suffered a 6-point decline. But at least it is at a point where you can say it's still good enough. But these are some of the things that are contributing to why citizens across the continent are beginning to feel the way they're feeling about democracy and the way they're feeling about military intervention in politics.
Let's bring in Ernesto Yeboah, and my colleague Sweetie Abachi will be coming in shortly. But Ernesto, you have been ferocious in fighting for the interests of the youth and the marginalized in Ghana. I remember you're going to Parliament on that, campaign, and then you got apprehended and all of that. But when you look at this latest dynamic from the Afrobarometer survey, what does it reveal to you as a young person in Ghana?
Well, thank you very much, Ben, and good morning to your wonderful viewers. A bit of a correction there. I'm not the Fighter General of the Economic Fighters League. You can simply refer to me as leader of the Economic Fighters League or Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Fighters League.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm not surprised by the findings of CBD, and let me commend CBD for this fantastic work, because more often than not, when we speak about some of these things, the question has always been about what data are you speaking to, and then we are made to look like we are some mad people who are just looking for trouble where there isn't. And so when organizations like CBD are able to put out, the raw data as they find, what happens is that it dispels the propaganda that has often been pushed against us to silence us as some rabble-rousers who are just looking for chaos. Now, it's important to understand that we did not just enter into democracy or fight for democracy for its own sake. We had expectations. And key among those expectations was our economic freedom, beyond our freedom to speak, our freedom to walk about and do whatever we want to do and things like that. Of course, within the presence of the law. The most fundamental, if you ask everybody, is the fact that we opted for democracy because we felt that it was going to give us a better life. Over 30 years, NPP and DC, 32 years, 16 years, for the global. And people are questioning what the results have been. There are those who, the other day somebody was saying, hey, we don't hear from you. Of course, if you are hungry and you are weak, is the most sensible thing being out there screaming when you can preserve some energy in order to see tomorrow. That's where we are. Many citizens have ought to opt out of how they collect their vehicles. Every morning they pass by their vehicles and go and opt for how to collect public transport. There are those who can, contain, 3 meals a day. And we are saying that what? So people have fundamental questions. Yes, we all need to sacrifice, but when you are suffering, when you are sacrificing, and you see, by example, filling your hotels, and you see Cecilia Dapas passing billions in her home, and nothing comes out of that, and corruption scandal after corruption stealing, and nothing happens, to these people. We are human beings. You begin to look out for other options that may substitute. And from an academic point of view, I don't think it is bad to contemplate military rule. And I think that
Pause right there for me, Ernesto. What did you just say? From an academic point of view, you don't think it's bad to contemplate military rule? Is that what you just said?
Precisely.
Please explain yourself.
You see, military rule is also another way of engaging the politics of the country. And so it's not necessarily, but if you look at what has happened, with the Sahel regions, Niger, Burkina, and Co. I don't know if the news feed that I am getting is fake or propaganda, but I'm increasingly reading positive things that I wish could happen to my country too. You see, I'm reading positive things. The idea that they are going to opt out of ECOWAS and then come up with their own currency, it's positive. For instance, in the sub-region, if they all begin to use one currency, and ECOWAS, how many years has ECOWAS been on this and all of that? You can see them taking very important steps. People who stole money in the past being asked to return the money and being paid to do so. So if military rule can offer that, if military rule can say that, hey, bring back our money, and I'm sure, 100% of Ghanaians will be excited to hear that. And that's why it's sad when you hear the likes of, what's the name, special prosecutor, and it's not just him, one special prosecutor after the other, complaining that, hey, I'm not getting the needed assistance, to be able to do my job. It tells you that, no, if this is what democracy offers, then military rule might be better. I can't imagine under Rawlings stealing our money and we are saying
Right.
And no, it won't happen.
Ernesto, thanks for those initial thoughts. Sweetie, it appears Ernesto then feeds into the sample. You realize that the decline from 2011-2013 has been 18 percentage points, 86% in that period, and now 68%. I guess if they had asked him, he would have said that that would be an option for him. What I'm worried about, we all know the excesses of such military regimes. One thing, though, that I've noticed, when you go to the Nigers and the rest, this new crop of military interventionists seem to be different from those from the 70s and 80s. But I'll share my thoughts on that later. It is not to condone military escapades in any way, but you realize that they are on a different trajectory, like in Burkina Faso.
I want to stay on Ernesto a bit because of that comment that it's not bad to contemplate military rule. And for context, I want to bring back some of the remarks that the former UN senior advisor, Professor Bafo Ajimanjia, made on the back of that One Ghana movement public lecture that, he says that democracy in itself is not bad. It is the political corruption that plagues the practice of our democracy. And if you look at some of the things that this report highlights, it's talking about the decline in both socioeconomic and political performance, with political factors like rising corruption, poor quality elections, and the lack of presidential accountability. So the question then is it a question of reviewing the practice of democracy or the aspects of democracy that feed into these issues which result in the decline or the decline in democracy? Or is it a question of reviewing the entire practice of democracy as a whole?
Well, I think that I would turn it upside down and say that military rule is not bad either. It is the excesses that we are all concerned about. And I'm happy that Ben talks about the variants of military rule that we are seeing in the Sahel region and all of that. It tells you that with a proper conversation or ideational view about how to approach that type of government, we may actually find that better and suited in our developmental framework. I remember the likes of example, in our history, proposing the idea of union government, UNIGOV, which was, rejected because at the time it was seen as a way by which the military wanted to perpetuate themselves. Of course, we had hope in democracy. It was not that the idea was bad. It was simply the fact that we wanted democracy and didn't want an extension of military rule. But maybe it's time to revisit that idea. Look, you have a country with close to about 70% of your population youth, and yet they have absolutely no representation in the governance of their country. Absolutely no power. And the people we work with, when we go to them and we engage them, not that they stop us with statements that, you know what, just give us guns and let us solve this equation. It appears as simple to them as that. And that's where we are. So we need, look, how many times have we screamed about the need to change our constitution? But when you say new constitution, it's like you have said the unthinkable. It shouldn't happen. CUC, in the last constitutional review, exercise, for instance, indicated that, look, extend ex gratia to all workers or scrap it completely. Years down the line, what has happened? So the political class is not interested. They are not. And this is why the contemplation of military rule, cannot be taken off the table. At this point, every option, we must be open-minded as possible to embrace every option and interrogate it and see what is best for our country. If military rule is what is best for our country, let's opt for it. You see, in the idea of the new constitution, we have talked about proportional representation so that women can have adequate representation in parliament. Physically challenged can have adequate representation in parliament. Young people can have adequate representation in parliament. This is a democratic process. But they are not interested. Why should more people get through? They simply want to keep it at the elite view so that all the time they are the ones that can take all the decisions and take all the goodies, for their families and friends. So if it is not working, let's not beat ourselves.
Right.
Let's invite academics into the space. Let's invite thinkers into the space, and let's have that national conversation. As in, what kind of government may be? And you see, this democracy thing also has a history of imposition. So it's not as democratic as democracy didn't come to us democratically. It was as a result of, an imposition. And if you read the CIA report, as in how the 1992 Constitution came about, it all started with, the rebellion that occurred in Burkina Faso with Mathieu Kreko. And then the CIA told, our president then, Jerry Rawlings, he wasn't president then, but the military leader then chairman of PS, that, hey, if you don't take care, it's going to spill over to Ghana. And so, hurry up and put together something you can call democracy, and then let's get down with it. And that's how, in fact, if you follow some of the early
Mr. Eboa, I get your point, and sorry to interject.
Comments of Rawlings. Let me end on this.
Right.
Early comments of Rawlings, you would find that he more than once said that, democracy is not the way for us to go.
The report is saying it's the youth that are leaning towards this. And before we come to other guests, leading towards this military intervention, do you think that those who lived, and if you take Ghana, for example, we've had our fair share of military rule. Do you think that those who lived under that regime would appreciate this report and say that we should rather be encouraging our politicians or our leaders to do right by us and not encourage the youth to be leaning in this way? Because they've lived under that regime. I haven't. I don't know, Ben, if you lived under a military.
I have. And
would you appreciate that?
Ernesto, before you come in, I would just say this. I found it interesting. 1K Boateng shares a message. He says, clearly, this is the year 2000 born cowbell generation. They have no idea what we went through in the revolution. Some of us did, actually. We are not that young.
So if you
it is a stark reality. We'd never want to get there. But you see, the problem is, some of these Gen Zs, they have no idea. But they also see military regimes in other West African countries, and they're like, well, these are people are not doing what we heard of in the past.
Yeah.
We are sowing the seeds of disaster because our leadership has failed. Pure and simple.
How does that sit with you? And then we go to Dr. Saikwapo.
Now, in the last election, let me ask, how many people lost their lives? How many people died? And yet in these Sahel, how do you call it, military takeovers, not a single reported death. Not one person died. And so we have to change our mindset about military rule and perhaps, embrace it in the most broadest terms as we can. I don't fault my mother or father if they are not enthused about military rule. But, if what we are seeing in Burkina is anything to go by. Look, Thomas Sankara, one of the best leaders that Africa.
So Ernesto, please wrap on that point so we can bring in Dr. Saikwapo.
Gaddafi, one of the best leaders that Africa has seen, was a military leader. So we cannot have a blanket and say that military rule is bad and therefore not desirable. Those who are open-minded enough will see the good that military rule offers.
Thank you for those thoughts there. Dr. John Saikwapo, do you agree with some of the things that Ernesto is saying? And then we'll come to our guest in the studio briefly.
And Doc, before you respond, let's also not limit it to, let it not become a conversation of, should we opt for military rule? That's not the conversation. This Afrobarometer survey reflects a lot of what is going wrong in different countries, including Ghana. What are some of those crucial areas we should be looking at as a country that has opted for democracy? So right. I think you should put it in that perspective.
Sure. So, one of the things or one of the questions that I always raise in response to this tinkering with an alternative besides democracy is that we've also seen, it's not as though we've not seen military governments in places like Ghana and our sister countries in the West African sub-region or the continent as a whole. We've seen their behaviors in office. We've also seen how they've performed, economically and all of those things. And so that appetite that is expressed for an alternative sometimes is the question that I raise, right? Is that we've seen some of the things that they are also able to do or not do. So I'm still one of those not convinced that it is an option worth looking at. But you can also understand that when citizens start feeling certain ways about the system of government in place, the consequence becomes, should we think of something else, right? So you are seeing declining trust in institutions that are designed to make democracy work. If you focus on Ghana, we are seeing serious deterioration in our trust in institutions. If you look across the continent and in the report, you're seeing increasing perceptions of corruption. If you also see how citizens feel about government's delivery of key social and economic goods, management of the economy, improving the living standards of the poor, etc., you can see why those sentiments being expressed, where citizens don't feel like democracy is really delivering, then the first question that comes into their mind is, there are some basic things that we want. Good health care, good education, we want good roads, precisely. And when they don't see those things, then the first thing that comes into their mind is they equate it with the system of government in place. And if that system is not delivering, then those questions begin to arise, which is why I made reference to that piece all the way back from 2009, where the author said a day is going to come where citizens are going to look at their balance sheet. In the democracy project that I had, that's the concept that we've been using now, which is what does the balance sheet look like? And when citizens start looking at their balance sheet and they start feeling like there are more liabilities than assets, where their lived experience, to borrow an Afrobarometer term, of democracy is concerned, that is when they begin to worry and say, well, maybe this democracy thing is not working after all, because we are not seeing, we are not feeling the effects of it. And those effects are more than just we have freedoms. They also want to feel the effects in terms of the everyday bread and butter issues.
Okay, thank you for those thoughts. Let me come to Mr. Kweku Pinsel in the studio. You've been following the conversations. What do you make of this report that indicates a growing support among the youth for military interventions in Africa?
Not just among the youth generally, but you would see a lot of young people definitely in there.
Yeah, young people.
I find it very exciting, very interesting, and I'm saddened in part because I was part of the generation that fought against military rule in Ghana. Oh. Indeed, I can go into history, but the point of the matter is that, somebody ever likened or made a picture of, I don't know how to call it, but it's like a bird in a cage and a bird outside the cage. While the bird in the cage wishes to come out of it, the bird outside the cage also wishes to go into the cage. And that's the kind of thing. So the bird outside the cage doesn't really appreciate the fact that the one that is in the cage is also seeking its freedom. Now, let me tell you, in reaction, specific reaction to this young man, okay? First and foremost, we had a revolution in Ghana. And all those who fell out, it would have been usual in those days that we had the East and the West, for them to have gone into the Eastern European parts of the world where they practice all this socialism, whatever. But not one of them who fell out went there. They all went to the West. I'm talking about seasoned revolutionaries and the Chris Atims and all of them. You can have their names in the history books. They all went to the West. Why? If they really believed in socialism and all those theories of those days, why would they not go to places like Cuba? Why didn't they go to Yugoslavia? Why did they go to Czechoslovakia and or Russia? They all went to the West. Because the truth, the basic point is, you can have your freedom even when you claim all kind of things. I would rather have my freedom to move about and do whatever I like and go on demonstration in a democracy than to go to systems where all these things are stifled. Now we are talking about,
and yet you will be economically stifled. You will live, a very, should I say, depreciated life.
That is so.
You will not live in dignity. You prefer that?
Well, that's the issue. That's the issue that I'm raising. That I would rather enjoy my freedom, sleep about wherever I want, move about wherever I want, than to go. I mean, let me tell you, these 3 West African countries that they just mentioned, whatever, look at them. Now they can bring whatever they have to their country, but then people, look, you will begin to see when people begin to clamor for their role and participation in the government, you begin to see where things will fall out. So that is the equation that we are looking at. That is not to say that what is going on in Ghana or other countries, but the struggle for democracy or for freedom has been one that did not start today. Even in America, even as we look at it now, there's a lot of disenchantment with the American political system. There's a lot of problems with the average American, how they find their political system and so forth and so on. But that is life. The whole of life is trying to make it better. And I do not say that we have the best conditions in Ghana, but I'm telling you that I have lived under a revolution. It's very interesting the way I hear this young man speaking as if I have lived under
the young man you're referring to is Ernesto Yeboah.
That is so.
Right.
It's very exciting. And if there are other people like him, let them hear me now. that I've lived under a revolution. I know what it is to live under a revolution where you cannot have your voice, where the military rulers pretend or claim they are making a heaven for you on earth, and yet you don't have a voice, and so forth and so on. I was ever declared wanted in this country for my political role as a student. And indeed and in fact, so what is going on now? People may be disenchanted with the economics and the politics and everything of this country, but we all can always make things work out through the political struggles that are going on. And we shouldn't make a distance of it. Now, for instance, let me give you an idea. Now, if you go to Europe now, you see that the leadership is relatively very young, relatively very, very young. People in their 30s and 40s and wherever. It's very amazing that American Party Democrats, which allows people like Trump and Biden in their old ages. Now in Ghana, we have with due respect, a very funny situation where, look at our president age. The youth do not really have a role, a proper role in politics. I admit that.
I think that's what they were saying, that we are not included in the decision-making process of the things that are
that is true, but they have to fight for a place through the political system.
I disagree slightly. I disagree.
You may
partly.
have to.
The youth have to fight, but in a proper democracy. And when you're done, I'll read a comment that someone has sent. I think it will situate the next conversation, how I want to approach this.
Yes.
In a proper democracy,
yes,
you don't say, oh, there are not enough women who want to participate in politics. You create avenues and make it possible for them to want to participate and participate, like Ethiopia has done in their parliament. You do same for the youth, especially for a continent that has 50+% of its population being youth, with projections in 2050 being that you would have much higher than that. Our leaders are simply not thinking. That is the reality. If you live in a part of the world, which part of the world has the sort of boisterous, lifeblood of teeming youth we have? So if you are not providing for them and saying that you are in the minority, just as in apartheid South Africa, this is like age apartheid we're practicing in Africa. The elderly get into power, they abuse power, misuse it for their own interests, and the people who vote them into power, largely the youth, are neglected. Makes no sense. Makes no sense.
How do you work it out? That is the issue. I was a youth some time back. I'm no longer a youth. I fought the system. I did what I could within the political system of the day. Here I am now. The real point is that it's a kind of engagement, because the point that you are making reflects a situation that we've had. Sometimes, and with due respect, when we talk of African politics, the issue then arises as to whether we are using the 50 years maximum of independence to compare, for instance, to America, where their democracy has been how many years? Things have to be worked out. And of course, let me tell you what, I was ever Saba Hall president, in the University of Ghana. Saba was a mixed hall. That was the only mixed hall at all my times. And yet every election was, left to the male only. And this was a mixed hall. And in my own time, we did our best to try and work out a non-competitive position for a vice president for a lady. But we voted out at the JCR, that's the Junior Common Room. But that reflected an appreciation of a situation or a problem, and our effort or attempt to work a situation out by having a non-elective position, because we realize that the women will normally, because of the dynamics of politics, the women will not normally put themselves up for elections and so forth and so on. So the kind of situation that my good friend talks about, I appreciate it, but it takes all of us to work the system out. Are we going to have another, Democrats started, and we call it a consultative whatever, before we had a constituent assembly and so forth and so on. Obviously, we're not going to go back to all those days, but once we have the problem, we have to work our situation out.
It's a percentage game. They could say that 20% of members of parliament should be between the ages of 20 to so. That way you are acting intentionally.
That is so. That is so.
For young people.
That is so.
You can allocate a percentage to women. And so then you are fixing the problem.
I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah, let me just divert the conversation a little bit. I don't think that the only options we have is democracy and military intervention. What about theocratic, governance, or where we have the royal families doing, taking decisions, and it doesn't come to just two options. And I'm asking myself, just listening to all the things that we are saying here, is it because we do not understand or we don't know that that's also an option? I'm not saying democracy is not working.
We are talking about systems that work.
And that doesn't work?
It doesn't appear. Even in the countries, with due respect, if you really go to UK, the royal family, they are just royal in the sense of
certain wherever. Some of the chiefs and kings wield a lot of power.
They do.
We can cite the Kumasi,
right, but
for example. He wields a lot of
but
power.
our constitution permits a role for the chiefs.
Right.
Our constitution permits a role for the chiefs, but it's limited. You're very right, but it's very limited. Okay. And obviously, it's open to all of us. I cannot pretend as I sit here that I have all the solutions to Ghana's problems, but a constitution reflects the lifeblood, the ideas and everything of the people. And there's no limit to what we can work out in any particular situation. So that's the way I'm looking at the problems that we have now, that the agitation of the youth reflects a certain anxiety about the way we are running our politics. And it is a call on all of us to reflect on what we have done, where we have reached. We talked about constitutional review how many years ago, they've still not come into being. Maybe it's an invitation to all of us to relook at the way we have done things up to now and find structural changes to the system that we have. That is so.
There are 2 points, gentlemen, all three of you. I think this will be something I'll focus on and leave this subject. Like I've said, it shouldn't become, should we opt for military rule and all of that? That is not the conversation. But has our democracy performed? So I want to read this comment, and then I'll read something interesting that I've not heard anyone discuss yet from the Afrobarometer report. The comment comes through from Godwin Ajetinau. He says, our problem is the misconception of what democracy is. Democracy is not the plebiscite way of electing our public officials. Neither is it freedom of speech. Democracy is accountable governance. Entrusting the affairs of our country and its resources to a party for the same people to self-regulate. How do we expect them to hold themselves to account? And of course, when you have immoral leaders, this is what happens. Look, let us stop practicing this thing we call democracy. We are more educated than this. Those are his comments. Our system of governance is not democratic. A system of governance that allows the managers of the country to self-regulate cannot be said to be democratic. I don't agree with him on everything, but I agree with him on some points. Like you were mentioning earlier, Lord Acton's aphorism, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that is exactly where we are. We give too many wide powers to our politicians, our so-called leaders, I call them misleaders, and they abuse the power. But here's the stark reading. Have we noticed that in this latest Afrobarometer survey, in terms of rejection of military rule, if you go to, let me check the page 13. If you look at the countries in West Africa that have gone the way of military rule, interestingly, the rejection of military rule has gone down.
Because they've experienced it.
It appears the military is performing in a way in some of these countries. So you look, Mali, it has moved from a 58% rejection from 2011-2013 to 18% rejection in this current survey. 40% difference. Burkina Faso has moved from 62 to 25, 37% difference. If you go to Guinea, it has moved from 70% to 57, 13% decline. Let me see whether I can find Niger on this list. It just means that there are problems in these countries, these developments. There's something fundamentally wrong. And if these percentages are showing what they are showing, then it means that even countries over about 2 years who have experienced military rule are beginning to develop some acceptance. That is a worry, and our leaders worried about that. Dr. Osai Kwapong, what is your take? So my question then is, has democracy done Ghana enough good in this Fourth Republic? That's my question to you, gentlemen. Dr. Osai Kwapong, I'll start with you.
Good question. I think we are yet to see the full benefits of a democratic system of government, right? I have often argued, and when I wrote my book last year on 30 years of democracy in Ghana,
right,
one of the things that I argued is that, look, I believe that in spite of all of its challenges, Ghanaians have made their peace with democracy. However, there are also some strong signals that we cannot ignore if we are to consolidate and keep this democracy going for however many years that we want to keep it going. And you realize that for me, it is on two fronts. One is the quality of our public institutions, how sometimes they treat citizens, how sometimes they handle issues of public concern, how sometimes they deliver or not deliver the basic services that citizens need. And when those things happen, the first point of reference the average person is likely to go to is the system of government in place, especially because democracy, if you think back to all of the conversations during the transition to democracy in 1990, in the early 90s, democracy was tied to development. So it wasn't as though democracy was sold on its own as, hey, countries, go democratic. No, it was sold as, if you go democratic, you would see improvements in good governance and socioeconomic development. So when you're not seeing those outcomes, you can just expect that people are going to say, well, where's the good governance? Where's the socioeconomic development that democracy promised us? And for a place like Ghana, it is that significant movement in the socioeconomic development needle that we are not seeing, that sometimes gets people in the country as well as our sister countries to begin to ask some of these questions about, well, what are we then getting from this democracy? But yes, I mean, we have the political stability, we have the basic freedoms, but I think I believe that there's still a lot more that our democracy can or should deliver.
Right. Ernesto Yeboah.
A few things that Doctor said.
Ernesto, please speak up for me. Please speak up.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Please speak up. Go ahead.
Okay. And so you have a constitution that is anti-youth. I mean, in the whole constitutional document, just show me the number of times that the word youth is mentioned in there. None. Meanwhile, you have close to about 70% of your population being youth. And that underscores the kind of condescension that, I mean, I am faced with on this platform, especially from Dr. Osai Kwako, when he refers to my youth than to my name. You understand? So how then do you expect that things would work? You talk about democracy, and yet you don't want. There's no accountability. I mean, so the idea that only democracy works, and therefore that is all that should be pursued, is such an unacademic perspective, I mean, for anybody to have, especially given the fact that the whole basis is to be able to realize our material conditions and be able to live lives of dignity, to be able to afford, I mean, the basics of life and not sleep or wake up in anxiety over where the next meal is going to come from. And so if there is a type of government or a form of government or a system of government or idea that would help bring about this kind of ideational view, you don't take it, I mean, off the table and say that focus on what is not I mean, what is not working. It's not working, and we can't be forced to keep our focus on things that if you are fetching water into a container and it is not getting full, it's a commonsensical thing not to do, to ask yourself, why is it not getting full? And perhaps close that chapter.
Right.
How much were we looking for from the IMF? Just about 3 billion. And we all know that the unspeakable truth that we all know in this country is that between Akufo-Addo and Mahama and Bawumia, the three of them alone can produce this amount of money. So what kind of system is this that makes the leaders richer than the country? So this is where we are. And so if we can interrogate these things in truth and in sincerity, I mean, as we're enjoined in our national anthem and national pledge and all of that, then we need to question ourselves as to, I mean, what we really want.
Okay. Interesting thoughts. So I guess I'll throw that to you as well, Kwaku Painso, and then Sweetie, we can I guess these will be your final comments on these.
I'll put it this way. If you read Julius Caesar, you know, when he was murdered, Antonio started as, it's not as if Caesar was not loved before. There was a time Caesar was loved. Now, you see, the fascination with what is going on in these 3 Sahelian countries, I'm talking about Burkina Faso, wherever. Anybody who was in Ghana in 1979 will know that students were the ones who carried the revolution into being, went on national wherever for over 1 year. There was a lot of enthusiasm that welcomed Rawlings. I was a sixth former in those days. And the university students, they went on national, wherever they call it, they got a name for it. That I was not in the university, but they took off a whole year to go and do national work, all kind of things. But that enthusiasm, you know, I've seen it before. It wanes over time. When issues of freedom, when issues of liberties, when issues, you will notice that life is not about economics alone, which is, of course, is the present focus of these military regimes. It is good. But very soon, people want to participate in it. People want to have a say. People want to move around when they want to move around. And that's the kind of thing that, with due respect, I think some people, the present youth, with due respect, I say it boldly, they don't seem to appreciate. Because not just about economics. And let me tell you what, constitutionalism and all the things that we are talking about, they are not a manufactured product on the market. The people have to work it out. The people, issues have to come up. We have to define forums, and we have to define ways, and we have to define means of resolving these problems on our own. And democracy has never been the same in any country. There are all kinds of fun. Maybe Ghanaians, they have been, I mean, Achampon brought all those kind of things. He brought Unigov and those kind of things. People rejected it. If it's about time we need to go to Unigov, it's our collective experience that will shape the development, political development of this country. So I'm not thinking that this 1992 constitution is all that we may require. After all, in the UK, they don't even have a constitution. If you see the US constitution, Ghana's constitution is so fat. I mean, you go to the 1960 constitution, about how many pages? 69 constitution grew up, 79, then 92. Every time we do a constitution, it grows up, and it's not the number of pages of constitution that will guarantee the things that we are looking for. So we need to work things out of our own. When the Bible says, work out your own salvation. As a people, we need to work things out. And all these problems that
How do we do that? How do we work things out?
Of course.
When you have a very selfish leadership that will serve its own purposes, like is it Godwin made mention of? How do you work it out?
No, we have the selfish government will attract to themselves all kinds of reactions. But like I saying, even the constitution has got the means for us to work things out. As you say, we have a constitutional review committee's report, which is still on the shelves. And for people like you and I to begin to question, begin to find out ways that we can bring these things on board. I mean, nobody really cares. I mean, people who think there has been another revolution in this country, they don't know what it is. They have not lived on the one before. They don't know what it is to sleep curfews. They don't know what they are talking about. But if they want to experience it in their lifetime, maybe they should wait when God calls me, then it will come into being. They don't have a full appreciation. But that is not underscore the fact that we have massive problems with the governance of this country, and that we all need to work it out. And it's not some magical formula that somebody can bring into being. But by, meeting on all of these issues, and I'm not too sure the Ghanaians, we don't have the resources and the ability to work out our problems. But that is how every country has worked out its own. America that we see today, if you go back into our history, go to France, there was a revolution. And you know what the revolution was about? The popular story was that the queen of the day, when she saw a massive demonstration, whatever, people were crying for bread. And you know what she said? That why can't you give them, if there's no bread in the city, give them cake. Okay. That reflected the I don't know, but please, I don't want to hijack your show.
Work out your own salvation. That's my takeaway from your submission. Yes. But interesting conversation. And I still maintain that our only options are not between democracy and autocracy or military intervention. Like you said, we can figure out a new system that works for us based on who we are as a people, what we want. And if government was listening to us, really, democracy wouldn't come under such scrutiny and, people opting out of it. But that's what we have for this belt of conversation. Kweku Pencil is a lawyer, and he's staying for the next belt of conversation, so you want to stay with us. But, of course, those who join us for
We've not given a bye to Dr. Osai Kwapong and Ernesto Yeboah.
Okay.
So just your parting comments, like I said. So started with him. Dr. Osai Kwapong, in about a minute, final words. We'll do same for Ernesto and we're gone.
Yeah, there are concerns. There are real governance challenges. There are real development challenges that we face. For me, this report is a real wake-up call for leaders, right? That if they want citizens to keep having faith in democracy, then it must be seen to be delivering. We can't just tout democracy for the sake of democracy, right? Democracy is good for more than just democracy itself.
All right. Ernesto, final words, quickly, very quickly.
Point out that we have never had a revolution in Ghana. What Dr. Osai Kwapong is referring to is a senseless killing that occurred. The abuse of women, rape, and dissipation of the wealth of the people of this country. That is not revolution. When we talk about revolution, it is about the change in the handling of power by one class or the other. That is not what we saw in Ghana. If you look at China, where they experienced the revolution, there was that kind of change in land reforms and all of that. They closed themselves to the rest of the world, and when they opened up, they became the production center of the world. That is what a revolution is. And Ghana hasn't experienced yet. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. You just heard Ernesto Yeboah. He says he is Commander-in-Chief, Economic Fighters League. Ernesto, thank you for joining the conversation. We also had Dr. John Osai Kwapong. He is much closer to the Afrobarometer team, CDD, in Ghana. He shared his thoughts as well. Thank you, Doc. And in the studio, and we are actually going to segue into the next conversation with him, Kweku Pencil. He is a lawyer. But when we return from the break, we're going to be looking at the LGBTQIA+ bill and whether it is ever going to see the light of day. On the back of the Supreme Court, our apex court, deferring its ruling on the injunction application to hear the substantive matters. What can we expect? Well, we'll bring you details of that after the break.
Substantive suit together, enabling this court to deliver a more informed, comprehensive, and just decision that accounts for all relevant circumstances and factors in this important matter. Such a unified approach will further provide context and clarity and also afford a clearer understanding of the issues raised in this interlocutory matter and their impact on the main suit. Having therefore diligently analyzed all the material processes on the record in this instant application and listened to oral submissions by learned counsel for the parties, Our decision is to reserve our verdict on the interlocutory application until the final determination of the substantive suit, at which point we will render a comprehensive judgment that addresses all aspects of the case, including the current application for injunction. In conclusion, the decision of this court on this application for an interlocutory injunction is hereby deferred to abide the outcome of the determination of the substantive suit.
My Lord, we are grateful. Lady, I believe that is fair and equitable.
Ones that the court things can be better dealt with in a substantive action. And it's permissible for a court to do that. There's nothing unusual at all. The court actually referred to an existing rule on injunctions. And so that, I think that the court is fair in coming by that approach. I mean, if at this stage the process have not been transmitted, and there must be a reason for that. The reason is that there was this application for interlocutory injunction pending, and the court has still not disposed of the application for interlocutory injunction. The court said the determination of that application for interlocutory injunction should abide the determination of the main case, and for that matter, it is reserving its determination until the main action is heard. It tells you that the application for interlocutory injunction is still pending.
Those are some visuals from yesterday after the court proceedings at the Apex Court. Joining me in the studio to dilate on these matters, Richard Kwejonyako is head of our legal desk. We still have Kweku Painto here, a lawyer. I'll start with you, Richard. Just walk us through what happened yesterday and what the significance is of what happened.
So currently there are two schools of thoughts, and Richard Delaskai and Dr. Amanda Odoi, they've told one line. They feel that the manner in which this entire bill was brought to Parliament was fraught with a lot of challenges. Indeed, there are constitutional breaches. They cite Article 108 that states that whenever a bill is being sponsored and it has an implication on the
consolidated fund.
Exactly. So it should come from the presidency and not from a private member. So it so happened that this bill was a private member-sponsored bill, and it has far-reaching implications on our consolidated fund. And so that is why they say that the financial impact analysis was not done before this bill was actually entertained in Parliament. And so it shouldn't have even started at all. Parliament had no business entertaining this bill at all. In fact, if you go to legal jurisprudence, you realize that this private members bill, the first one that was fashioned out was in 2019, just as the Attorney General said. Yeah. And so it didn't really create this kind of reaction because it did not have any impact on our consolidated fund. But this one has obviously far-reaching implications on the consolidated fund, and that is why they went to court seeking an injunction restraining the Speaker of Parliament, its agent assigns and all of that from transmitting the bill that has already been passed to the presidency for his assent or otherwise.
But that is also topical, controversial, because it's been 4 years plus since private members' bills have been accepted, and other bills have seen the light of day. The question now is, why not this one?
Okay, so why not this one was the question I answered earlier, that it has financial implications.
Right.
So that
is what is being raised now.
Exactly. And so once there was something like that, then it means that it ought not to have been entertained. If a bill comes to Parliament and it will have a border on our funds, then it should rather come from the presidency and not from a private member. And so that is why this case has become very topical, and we are all talking about it. But the other school of thought also indicates that, well, Parliament's work is not done until the bill that has been debated upon has been passed, is transmitted to the presidency. So why arrest the bill that is currently set in motion on its way to the presidency? And so that is what really is in contention now. Yesterday, we were expecting that the Supreme Court will either grant the application filed by the two or will refuse the application filed by the two. But it so happened that they said, well, their verdict is ready, but because some of the pleadings that are currently in the interlocutory application also find place in the substantive suit. It will serve the ends of justice should they do some kind of consolidate the two and then give one verdict so that all parties would be happy with the ruling that will come. And so that was really what happened. So they have reserved their ruling, and then they've asked the parties involved to file the necessary processes, and they are pushing for an early trial. And the early trial, when we asked, is that it is also dependent on the processes, how the parties will come together during their meetings and all of that. Exactly, to do that. And they were also pushing for an expedited one. But you know that legal vacation is also
just around the corner.
Exactly. So by the time, and so people were asking, so what happens if the substantive suit is not heard, and then the life of this parliament expires? What happens to the bill? So that is where we are.
That leaves the bill in some sort of limbo, technically. But let me come to Kweku Pencil and find out. What do you make of all of these developments? We've had conversations in the past on this LGBTQIA+ bill, and now we find ourselves in these turbulent legal waters. What is your reading of the situation?
It's more about politics than even law.
It's more about politics than law.
More about politics than law. And I'll explain it to you. Because we have a funny situation where the majority in parliament are in the same political party with the president. And this bill received an overwhelming vote in parliament. And therefore, the issue arises as to what is the differences in thinking between the president and his own party members in parliament. How come that your own party members have voted overwhelmingly to bring a bill to the presidency, and now we are receiving education from the president's lawyer or the attorney general as to all of this? It's funny. It's really funny. And so this got more to do with politics than the law. And interestingly, none of the people in parliament, I'm talking about the parliamentarians who voted overwhelmingly for this bill, is taking a point on this matter. So it's politics. This is not law. I'm telling you, of course, the Supreme Court will rule. They have a duty to rule on every matter that goes to them. But I'm telling you, it's funny. The question Ghanaians must ask, I'm asking, everybody must have an answer to, what happened? Is it the case that the office of the president is so, separated from the office of the party members in parliament, so that there was no prior discussions and whatever? Because with due respect, I mean, these things, they are not just done on their own. In other words, parliamentarians, they got up and say we're going to propose a law when they have not had a discussion with their own president. Of course, I know the difference between the executive and legislature, but I'm talking about politics. And so what's playing out before Ghanaians, in my honest view, I don't even believe it's a legal issue at all. It's a political issue.
And once the politics is resolved, maybe there will be no need to see all the back and forth.
All the legal drama.
So how then do we resolve it? I mean, yes, you say that it's political. How do we resolve the politics?
Well, I mean, I have come to the conclusion that we've got a bill that's running in parliament which the presidency is not happy with. The presidency or the president of this country is not happy with. I mean, with due respect, if you know the political views and everything about the president, you will appreciate why he personally, as a person, will be opposed to any law of this nature. And because some of these things is law, and we can't separate it with personal views and stuff like that. I've never known the president to have advocated a view against all these LGBTQ. It will always find expression in the way these things are played out publicly in the courtrooms and wherever. But of course, that's not to say that there are no legal implications for this matter. If the president believes that as a matter of law, this thing ought to come. Because the point is, with due respect, let me put it this way. He says a private member's bill. You think the president himself believed in it, he could have initiated it on his own? Why a private member? Why leave a private member? Why do you set a trap, if I may put it that way? If the president believed in it, then the law would have started from his office. But the point of the matter is that how come that the people in the same party with the president overwhelmingly voted for that same bill with their own president. How distant is the president from his own party members in parliament? And that's the funny thing that's playing out before Ghanaians, that, oh, okay, we now have a because it's election year. And
so now the interesting thing is there is a disconnect between the executive and the legislature, even his own members of the legislature. And now the judiciary has been called in to resolve the tussle between two of the other elephants. And you see, the point then is, before you come in, Kwejo, the point then is, if it is political, why is it even in court? Is the Supreme Court going to deal with it legally or politically?
I'll tell you, this is an election year. And the sentiments of Ghanaians is overwhelmingly in favor. I mean, that's the way I feel. I may be wrong. But I get the feeling that our cultural values mixed with the political sense or whatever makes an election year a very volatile year for any decision on this matter. But the parliamentarians know too much that if they place any sentiment contrary,
they'll be punished.
They'll be punished by the electorates. So no parliamentarian, even in parliament, only 2 or 3 MPs, and they were even being embarrassed. I'm sorry, because people are free to disagree. They were being called names. And I recall reading in the newspapers that on the day that it was put to vote, the whole parliament was silent. In other words, there was no one person who voiced any opposition or dissent, which is funny. And they did it for political reasons, for the electorate to know, knowing the sentiment of Ghanaians. But the president, with due respect, has ended his term of office. And he loses nothing. He has nothing to lose whatsoever. So he can play. So whether the executive and the legislature, I'm talking about the executive, the presidency and his members in parliament, agree to play that kind of thing, I cannot say to it. But that's the inference that I can make from what transpired. Because they're embarrassing all of us as Ghanaians. How can, for once, the president and his own members, how can there be such a great disconnect between the president and his own? That's about the only time that there's been such a disconnect between the presidency and his own members in parliament. I'm not too sure that there has been any other legislation in this country where that disconnect has shown. That's
maybe not legislation, but on the finance minister, you remember, but not legislation.
That is so.
Not legislation. Final words. I'll come to you, Kojo. I see you have a lot to.
I just wanted to put a question, ask a question. So there are 2 things.
Yes.
So Article 108.
Yes.
That now the applicant says that it infringes the entire Article 108, where
108A, right?
Should they allow, then it will open the floodgates for other people to also sponsor bills, private members, sponsor bills to Parliament that will have financial implication on the consolidated fund. And 2, the other people are also saying that Parliament's work is not done. So what stops the president from receiving the bill? If the president will not even assent to the bill, why won't you receive it, and then the necessary actions will be exerted?
Yes, you see, that makes it the funnier, because like you put it, in the second of your 2 questions, I've never seen a situation where the president has placed a stop. In any case, this bill was sent to him, from what I know, on the cover of a letter and all of that. But the point of the matter is because
rejected
that
3
is
times.
So, because you see, the constitutional provision will move in. I don't remember the exact date, but when the president receives a bill which he does not want to assent to, then it gives automatic right to Parliament to vote. I mean, that's what we call a veto. In other words, when the president refuses to assent to a bill when it's presented to him, then the voting to to send out, or rather to veto the president bill comes automatically in. So it was a tactical thing that the president is seeking to do when he has received the bill and he claims he has not received it, or for now he's creating a new procedure for the receipt of bills from Parliament. It cannot be, but it's a game. And I will put it that way. So that is to give the president that room. And as long as Parliament also believes that what it did not amount to sending the bill to the president, then there is this kind of, space that's been created. So that's the first part. But I'm saying that is also politics.
Okay.
That is politics. Then your first question relates to the constitutional provision. You know, the first question that comes to my mind is who assessed the cost, the economic cost or whatever of this bill? Who did the assessment and who decided or determined that it would necessarily have to be on the consolidated account? But even the interpretation of that clause, unless the Supreme Court comes out, I mean, I have personally expressed a view on this matter in earlier forums that because at the time that the bill was presented, I remember that it was presided over not by the Speaker, not by the Speaker, but some other person. And there's enough room. Unfortunately, I cannot quote the constitutional provision. It does not even appear to me that the interpretation that is being given to this clause that you mentioned is really right. But because this matter is before the Supreme Court, I will hesitate in pushing that line of thinking. But I've expressed that view earlier on. But even if it is so, the real question is, how come that at this point, the economic cost of this bill, which nobody knows, is being made an issue? I mean, that is the way I will respond to it.
They say that people will be jailed, be sent to prison, they would have to be fed, and all of that.
It's a joke.
Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts on this all-important matter. Only time will tell what happens to this LGBTQIA+ bill. With time, we'll get to see. But those who joined us for this conversation, Richard Kwadwo, he is head of our legal desk, and we also had Kweku Painto, a lawyer. Up next, we'll be heading to the northeast region, the East Mamprusi area, where a bridge that has collapsed is causing dire circumstances for members of that community. We'll bring you a conversation on that after the break. Do stay.
The farming community of Kulgona in the East Mamprusi municipality is located less than 40 kilometers east of the regional capital, Nalirgu, situated on the extreme left of the village of Kolenvai along the Nalirgu-Bintiri road. The road that runs through Kulgona is being seen as the shortest alternative to travel from the regional capital to the easternmost parts of the region, including the Yunyo and the Cherponi districts. The road is, however, rarely used by motorists due to the lack of a bridge over a river at the eastern outskirts of the community, which often renders it immotorable during rainy season. Since the rains began, school children on this part of the community have been asked to stay at home. Their parents are worried and plead with the authorities to fix the bridges. We can't allow our children to continue to risk their way to school every day. We can no longer access healthcare facility in Nalirgu.
We are appealing to government to come to our aid, to refill it so that people can access healthcare. And students in particular can also pass through the bridge to school.
The situation has also severely impacted socio-economic activities, with startups and small businesses being threatened, whilst access to the most basic needs such as food items and pharmaceutical products becoming a challenge day by day in the community.
If the rain, if I went to Seconds or if I want to Kumasi and bring my ATM, in fact, we can grab the neighbor.
On a regular market day, you see many cars here. And as I speak now, no car can pass there.
The chief of the community said his people and many other Konkomba communities were yet to benefit from the creation of the new region. The school building is in shambles, and the marketplace is nothing to write home about. We have been neglected. We haven't benefited. Nalirgu for Joy News, Ilyas Sutanko reporting.
So that's report you just saw by Ilyas Sutanko from the Northeast region, detailing some socioeconomic activities that have impeded because of a bridge. So let me take you now to the Northeast region, that is East Mamprusi, where a collapsed bridge is having dire consequences on their ability to access healthcare and education. Ilyas Sutanko joins us now. Ilyas, thanks for joining the conversation and bringing us the story. Now, what more can you tell us about this bridge that is impeding the smooth flow of activities in that community?
Well,
The bridge links these particular communities and several others, at least about 17 other communities. It connects these communities to the Northeast Regional Capital, Nalergo, which is about some 40 kilometers away, and other parts of the country. In fact, the road that connects these particular communities is seen as the shortest alternative when you're traveling from the region to the eastern part of the region. I mean, the Yunyu, the Bunkurgu, and the Cherponi district. This route is widely seen as the shortest alternative. But like we saw in that particular report, this particular route has largely been abandoned. Motorists are not able to use it, especially during the rainy season. There is a bridge or there is a river that runs through the eastern part or outskirts of that particular community, and there is no bridge over this particular river. And so anytime it rains, the area gets flooded and the road is cut off. Now, what is happening is that there is a particular bridge in the center of the Kulgona community, and the other one that is also at the western exit of the community. So when you're coming from Nalergo, the bridge that is just at the entrance of that particular the community is now also cut off, and then the one that is also found in the middle or the center of the community has also damage. And we understand this damage occurred in August of last year, and the situation still remains the same as we speak since the resumption of the rains. Day-to-day activities in the community has almost become a standstill. School children on the other side of the community are not able to go to school, which is located on one side of the community.
And Eliasu, that's very important information, but please hold for me. We have the MCE for East Mamprusi on the line with us. He's Abdullahi Issa Chimsi. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, this 40-kilometer road and, the unavailability of a bridge that is impeding the access, socioeconomic activities in the community. Are you aware of it, one? And two, what are you currently doing about it? Mr. Abdullah Issa, please unmute and speak to us.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. My question to you was, are you aware about the lack of a bridge or unavailability of, access to healthcare and other socioeconomic activities in East Mamprusi community because of that bridge? And what are you doing about it? Mr. Abdullah Issa, okay, go ahead. I think there's a delay, right?
Yes, yes, I am aware of the Kulgona bridge or bridges issue. Yes, I took over office last February this year, and I've visited the community 2 consecutive times. So, in fact, looking at the stream, there are about 3 streams that separate some of the communities around that area to the adjoining communities on the highway from Nalergo to Bintiri. So we have made a lot of efforts. You can see from the center bridge where your camera shoot that the assembly together with the stakeholders works on the bridge, especially the one inside town. However, the position and the nature of that culvert where it was sited has made it difficult. When you compact it, it easily washes away. And so it needs...
I want to understand what you're saying. First of all, you said you're making some efforts. What is being washed away? Are you saying when you build the bridge, the river washes it away? Are you using concrete? What? I want clarity on that. What are you talking about?
Yes, I'm saying you can just see some gravel. Those bridges were gravelled and compacted. But the strength of that stream, washed it away. The gravel, exposing it and making it unmovable. And so it needs serious attention, which is beyond that of the assembly's capacity.
Okay, so if it's beyond your assembly's capacity...
We have reported this issue to... I've been to the side with highways.
Mr. Issa, I don't know if you can hear me. I was asking that using gravels is just a makeshift way of letting people access these roads, but it's not a permanent solution to the issue. And you say you've been making some efforts, and it's beyond the jurisdiction or the capacity of your assembly. So my question to you is, how have you escalated this to the appropriate authorities who can actually fix this? So school children can't go to school.
Yeah, so I was just saying that you can contact or speak with my regional highways authority and that of the regional feeder roads department. These two agencies have been to the site, and it has been captured as one of the critical routes in the East Mamprusi municipality. There are a number of rules that makes movement, traveling difficult for the people of East Mamprusi, especially the rural folks, to access the urban centers. And so Kulgona Strait is one of the critical routes that has been captured, and this has been brought to the attention of the authority. And plans are far advanced. My last check with these rules agencies, it has been submitted to the Ministry of Rules.
Okay.
And is awaiting maybe approval for a contractor to move to site to work on this bridge or this culvert. It's really a serious challenge for the people living around that strait and similar other rules within the municipality.
Right.
It's not the only road actually, but since this one has come up, that is how far I've handled this issue since I took over office.
Do you have timelines that you're working with? You said the Ministry of Roads has assured you. What timelines are you working with?
Well, let me make myself clear again. I said I've contacted the other road department, that is highways.
Okay, Ministry of Highways, Roads and Highways.
No, yes, so Highways Authority.
Okay.
Then feeder roads. Ideally, feeder roads should have been part of the assembly structure. But, well, I'm not going there, but we have a feeder road regional office. So I've contacted them. We have captured these culverts or these bridges and the route as one of the critical routes for this year. And my brief was that is awaiting approval from the ministry for the route to be worked on. And so to give clear timelines, my next follow-up is next week. I really want to take a pain to visit the ministry myself to further assess what is the way forward regarding these critical routes for this year. And so, clearly, I cannot give a clear timeline now, unless, of course, I update my information from the ministry that I can give you further details as to when work will start or work will complete on these critical routes.
Well, we are trying to find solutions, Mr. Abdullahi Issa, and so if you cannot confirm a timeline from the ministry and the other authorities that you've reached out to, and you yourself say that you plan to visit them soon. How soon do you plan to visit them to escalate this matter? Because it's impeding healthcare and access to education. How soon do you intend to visit the ministry?
Yes, like I indicated, next week, God willing, I'll be in Accra. Okay. I'm really trying to book an appointment with the minister, Bruce, so that I can engage him on this route and other critical routes, so that I will have further and better information as to when my rules that are posing a lot of challenge to my people will be dealt with. And God willing, next week, probably Monday, Tuesday, I will be in Accra. Yes.
We shall be expecting you, Mr. Abdullah Issa. But let's get back to Ilyasu Tanko, and then we will wrap up. Ilyasu, so how are people actually commuting, just to wrap this conversation? How are the people in that community commuting from their from their various points of operation?
Well, it's been a very difficult movement in the community and its localities, about 17 villages, I say. Because of the distraction, no vehicle is able to enter the community. They used to rely on these tricycles. Now it's almost impossible for tricycles to go there. And so the community members themselves are sometimes heavily now depending on bicycles, because this is the only means that can travel through these broken bridges. And it's also becoming very difficult to use, especially when the rain comes and the whole place becomes flooded. And so really a big situation for the members of the Kulgona area there, and 8 localities, 7 villages are almost trapped since the beginning of the rains in the northeast region here.
Thank you so much, Ilyasu Tanko. And the MCE says he will be in Accra next week, and so we will await him and see how that goes. But we also have the youth leader joining us on Zoom. He is Albert Noble Achiri Wuni. He's an opinion leader for Kulgona and also an advocate for quality for social services. Albert, thanks for joining the conversation. I'm sure you've seen the reports, and these 7 communities, how they're struggling to access education and healthcare. As a community leader, first, how does this sit with you, and what are your efforts towards escalating this so the appropriate authorities can fix it as soon as possible?
Thank you very much for having me on your show this morning. As a youth leader and also an opinion leader, we are not sitting down. We are doing things in our own effort to remedy the situation. But just like the MP indicated, if it's beyond the district assembly, then our community will can't even come there. And it's really affecting lives seriously. Just like Ilyasu indicated earlier, if you look at the road, moving from Nalegu to Kulgona, there's a river there, of which the bridge is washed out, that a car cannot cross.
Yeah.
Then within the community, there's also another river, of which the bridge has also been washed out. Now, if you look at them, you realize that in both sides of the river bank has been washed out. So the bridge is standing in the middle.
Yeah.
Water passes through the bridge and passes through the other side of the bridge. So it's really difficult for to even make an attempt to even pass there. Now, what happened is that at the chip center, anytime it's failure for somebody in Nalegu, it becomes difficult to cross that place. That route is also distorted from Nalegu to Yinju to Cherpene. So if I'm in Ghana and I want to Nalegu, then I have to go Nanyeri to Gunteri and then take the Nalegu route. Or I either have to go to Ghana, Nanyeri again to Nanshore, then through Napanduri and then go to Nalegu. Unfortunately, those before the first people on the legal side, they can't cross the bridge within the community.
Well, Mr. Albert Noble Achiriwuni, we know the details of the situation. My question to you is, what are you doing about it as an opinion leader?
So what we did was that, seeing the situation that we cannot fix it by ourselves, we have reported to the district assembly, just like the MP indicated. We have also reported to the Member of Parliament, Alhaji Babatero Isifu. Before the collapse of the bridge, we saw the danger, and we quickly reported the situation. The information I have is that the MP filed a question in Parliament and then asked the road minister their plans concerning the road. I listened to him. The response was that the road has been given to a contractor. That we will soon see a contractor on the way, on the site. Up to now, we haven't seen any contractor around that site.
Do you know the name of the contractor?
We have not seen a contractor. So I'm a bit surprised the MC is indicating that they've given it to a contractor or they are planning to give out to a contractor. But the information we have is that that road has been awarded to a contractor more than 2 years or 3 years ago.
Okay.
But we've never seen a contractor on the site. Maybe it's an invisible contractor, but we don't know. But that is what we can do. What we can do is report the situation, advocate, and appeal to government and the right authorities to come to our aid. That's the little or the best we can do as a community.
Okay, please hold for me. The MC is still here on the line with us. Mr. Abdul Issa, you just heard this opinion leader say that there's no contractor, they've not seen a contractor, although you said it's been awarded to a contractor about 2 years ago. How do you respond to that? Abdullah Issa Chimsi, if you can hear me, please stop monitoring on your television and just communicate with me directly.
He understands. I think he said he understands that he was told the road is awarded. I think I didn't say that. I said my last checks with the agency, that is the Highways Authority, and that of feeder routes. Owing to the situation, the road is captured as one of the critical routes in the East Mamprusi municipality. And the report submitted to the Ministry of Roads, awaiting award or approval for award for a contractor to come to site to fix this road.
So it means that it has not yet been awarded.
Albert said, I have no idea of the road is on contract. I am now making my follow-ups to confirm and to be able to speak to it. So I am not aware of any contractor that has been, or that the road has been given to. Now we talk of the person has not been to site. No.
All right. So Albert, where are you getting this information from then?
This information is available that can be cross-checked.
Please speak up.
Member of Parliament, Alhaji Babatero, you can contact him.
Okay.
He filed a question in Parliament. I think that was last year or so.
Okay.
Then the road minister by then indicated that the road has been given to a contractor. And he gave a vivid description of how the road was going to be constructed. It's not something that I am making it up. It can be cross-checked from the Member of Parliament and from Parliament.
All right, thank you so much. And we will do that. We'll run our checks and confirm all those. Albert Noble Achiriwuni is an opinion leader in Kulgona, and Abdullah Issa Chimsi is the MCE of East Mamprusi. We're also joined by Albert Eliasu Tanko, from the Northern East region, bringing us those details on that bridge that is impeding access to education and healthcare in Mamprusi. There's more coming your way on the AM show. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Well, thank you very much for staying with us here. Wish for Life is trying to end childhood cancers. They've been on this project for a while now with support from the government of Ghana in terms of granting them land. And they are back today to share with us what the latest is on this project. Joining me, I have a pediatric oncologist, Dr. Tanya Trippett. She is actually leading the project in Ghana, in the central region. Dr. Trippett, a very good morning to you. Good morning. It's good to have you back.
It's a pleasure being back.
I guess it's the first time you're in these studios.
Yes, it is the first time.
All right. So we are actually going to deliberate further into this matter. Just about sometime last year, was it? We started this project to create this childhood cancer unit, an establishment, vast medical facility, so that people not just in Ghana but in the West African sub-region can actually benefit. I would like to find out from you, what is the state of the project as of now?
We're entering a very exciting phase, which is called the enabling workspace. And so that's a time in which we began to quadrant off the land in preparation for the big machinery that's going to come in to prepare the hospital itself.
Okay.
So we're working with Surge Boost International to do the perimeter wall and to begin to start to prepare for clearing the land. At the same time, we're working with the National Information Technology Agency to begin to build our fiber optic network that we'll need for the hospital. And so we're really excited about that. It's a wonderful time.
Okay, so that's an interesting bit in there. But for those viewers who may not be fully aware of where the project is situated and all of that, where is it situated?
Sure,
for
so
some who are now watching you for the first time.
So the project is situated in Asakam. And we chose this space because we wanted to create a place that was restful and healing and a haven for parents and children who are suffering through the experience of cancer. It's a 50-acre site, which we were very happy was a gift to us from the Chembuaka community. And they've bought into this concept of valuing the lives of children and ensuring that we provide the quality of care necessary to cure cancer, pediatric cancer.
So we have the land, we've started working on the land.
Yes.
I guess one of the most expensive aspects is the equipment in there.
That's correct.
But in terms of funding, I want us to just focus on that as well. How far have we come? And then in terms of the maybe completion date, what do we have in mind?
Sure, so we've been very, very lucky that we have persons that have committed to donate to the work here in this country, and then others in the United States, a pretty substantial sum. So we're at a point where we have a good portion of the funding for the actual hospital itself. Okay. We have a number of...
When you say a good portion, how good is...
So we're looking at about 40 to 50% right now.
Wow.
Yes,
wow.
yes, so we're
That's
really
great.
happy.
Funding from the States?
Yes.
From the US?
Yes, yes. And our plan is now that we'll begin to widen our catchment area of people that we'll begin to look at to bring gifts to us. And so we have a huge fundraising event in California in August with some of the big companies that support medical institutions. So we're very excited about that.
I see. From the Ghanaian end, beyond the land, what contributions have come in?
So we've been very, very fortunate to have a number of persons who have indicated that they will give towards specific sectors of the hospital.
Okay.
So laboratory services, ward space. We've been fortunate that NIDA has been so kind to help us to build the infrastructure for the IT network, which we'll need. So when the construction team starts, they're going to actually be able to communicate with me in the United States very easily. So that work is being done as we speak. We have a major gift that's come from Amazon Web Service, providing infrastructure, the first year of service for free, and consultation services. For our accounting side, Deloitte Touche is been so kind to give us some very nice donations to help us to get started and to put the team together nicely.
So that's some interesting stuff. I would then ask you, what more do you need? how can people watching us today, whether in Ghana or because people watch this show from across the world, how can they help if they're watching and they want to help?
I think the first step, we have some community outreach that's ongoing. Our food program, which is called One World, One Kitchen, is active and now increasing in terms of its capacity. We're helping the children who are receiving outpatient care at Corley Burr. So we're providing food for the children and their families there. This is an opportunity to give, to support directly people that are going through care right now. We've launched a new program that's called Mothers for Mothers. Okay. And we have 2 mothers from the United States, Jamila Hassan and Lee Belfield. They're mothers that have experienced cancer and want to be able to share their knowledge with other mothers to provide comfort. So that program will be launched. They'll come to visit in September. We'll begin to start to bring care packages for mothers. We're planning to start at Kofanochi and then extend to the regular hospital. So we need support for that. The larger scale, we would love for everyone to join into our community campaign. And we're just asking for a small nominal amount, 50 Ghana CD, which will go to the hospital. But more importantly, what it will do is say to the global community, we value the lives of our children. So we're going to invest to make sure that they receive the kind of care that they need.
Wonderful. Do you have any final words for us before you go?
Yes, I have one final word. I think we need to be courageous now. This is a watershed moment, and we need to leverage our voice to say children's lives are important, and let's make it happen in a real-time schedule.
Children's lives are important, very important. Let's make it happen, and we want to end childhood cancers. This center will not just be for Ghana, it will be for the sub-region, and it will serve many people and save many lives. And you see there in the background, Dr. Tanya Trippett herself. She's a pediatric oncologist, and she is lead for this project. It is all about Wish for Life constructing an ultra-modern childhood cancer treatment center in Ghana. Well, that is how we are going to cap off the show this morning, right here on Joy News. And definitely, Joy News Desk is up next. Sweetie Abochi helping me, well, together bring you the AM show. We'll be back tomorrow.